Lupin and them, they just went crazy.
Hi, Grandpa. Oh, I'm on a podcast right now. Yeah, I don't know, man. Just Lupin needs to learn to control his emotions, man. I think that he could make a good argument if he could get over the emotional hurdle of the scrambled eggs that is his brain. He's smart, but he doesn't know how to use it, right? It's like he's more interested in how the cell phone works rather than what to do with the cell phone, right? And he thinks that what to do with the cell phone is intimately related with how it works, and they're really not. They're radically different concepts.
Huh? Oh, guess who's here?
Sky, bro.
Morning, guys. Dustin's here. How you doing, Dustin?
I'm alive and well, man. How you been?
Mm, not good at all, but I've got no voice right now, even almost. I've got something stuck in my throat. I'm not even sick. I'm not. Okay, let me tell you how I feel right now. I feel like I've either got something got something stuck in my throat or something, or I've been yelling for like 24 hours straight or something. Is kind of how I feel, like throat wise. That's what I'm saying. I sound totally sick, but I'm not like mucusy. I'm not anything. Like
Have
I got a
You
you
sore
sound
have
throat.
you
you
check
sound
your
like an elder.
nodes?
Go ahead, sorry.
No, check your nodes and see if there's any sore parts underneath your jaw.
Oh, my lymph nodes are totally swollen. Well, my left. Wait, well, there might be. My left lymph node is like swollen.
All right, can I suggest something?
Yeah.
Get you some iodine, some baking soda, and some salt. Throw some water in there and brush the shit out of your teeth. Gargle, swish,
Oh,
swallow,
I
and
use.
spit.
Yeah, I use baking soda and peroxide toothpaste. I use whatever brand. I don't really care what brands, but
You
I
need
have
iodine. Baking.
iodine.
Look, peroxide. What that does is it changes the pH balance. Okay. Granted, iodine's a little more acidic, but that's why you're mixing it with baking soda. Okay. What you need to get to more of an alkaline in your mouth, because what's happening, in my opinion, I don't know. I haven't examined you, but what's going on is you got streptococcus, and it's invading your lymph nodes. And if you start disinfecting the area because you're using the wrong materials, then it'll help. Just give it a
Well,
shot and see what happens, man. I'm telling you, you might be surprised.
I wish I was
well,
medically knowledgeable enough to do a House MD esque like debate over the diagnosis with you, but I don't know anywhere near enough to be able to do that. I'm
well,
sorry,
teeth.
Skylar. I hate to say it, but you're starting to sound like an elderly Hasidic Jewish woman. Like I feel like you're about to sound like you're about to talk about how verklempt something. Oh, it's so verklempt, sweetie. I need to tell you right now.
Well, it's why can't I be a guy? Why do I have to be a woman? That's fucked up.
That's what
I'm
I'm
I.
not a
That
female.
sorry.
was
I'm sorry. It's
that
just
was where I was going with that.
when you first came in, you had a very nasal kind of tone to your voice, and it really made me think at first that you were of a different persuasion. You know what I'm saying to you?
Well, I won't be I won't be Hasidic because I'm not growing curls and wearing a black hat. Ironically, I would wear a black hat, but I'm not growing
You'd look
curls.
good in the hat, sweetie. It would suit you. It really would. It would
the
look really good on you, sweetie.
I
I would
do, and
debate the curls comment, but I don't necessarily want to be disgusting.
I don't like growing beards either, man. For real, like I don't like growing mustache actually more so than beards. But I don't like growing beards, mustache. Like I like to grow like trimmers. Actually, if you use hair clippers, not even beard trimmers, right? I like to use hair clippers to trim my beard, and I just keep it that length.
He's got
Yeah,
like a permanent 5 o'clock shadow, like all the time.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I don't like shaving either. It's pretty funny. It's ironic. I don't know. Uh,
I don't blame you though. Shaving's
Why?
kind of a well, it's involved, right? Like if it's not something you're willing to commit to every day, then it's not something you should pick up.
Well, look,
Right.
there was a time. All right, check this out. So there was a time that I would legitimately have to like grow a beard. Like it's semi sort of a requirement. I don't want to explain that. So, anyways, there was. I mean, I would have to grow a beard, or I'd have to, or I'd have to shave, vice versa. You know, I've had to shave, I've had to grow beards, I've had to grow a goatee, you know, stuff like that, and get all shaggy and whatnot. And I'm telling you, dude, it's just like so what hair clippers did for me, and I not just got used to it, I actually liked it. I like it, you know. So what hair clippers did for me though in that situation was if I had to grow a beard, I was already started, you know what I mean? And if I had to shave, it was that simple at the same time. So I don't know, I just always kept trimmed, I guess.
The many facial grooming techniques of Sky, bro.
Oh yeah. But I tell you what, it wasn't until recently. Like I used to pluck my eyebrows, not like, you know, I would pluck a whole bunch of eyebrows all the time. It's not like that. My eyebrows like get one. You know, I'll get like one or three, one just
Skyler's a
unibrow.
monobrow. He's got
Wait,
a monobrow.
no, not monobrow. I'm saying real long eyebrow hairs, like one hair
Oh.
out of my whole eyebrows on each eyebrow or something. So like, but when I started, and I don't work at a marijuana farm no more, by the way. So, but anyways, when I started working at the marijuana farm, I noticed real quick, like when you're burying your face in marijuana, like that is another thing. Like clean shaven is not fun because you get the resin all over your face at the same time as a thicker beard. At the same time as a thicker beard, you're getting the resin stuck on your beard hair and stuff and your mustache and whatnot. So, but my eyebrows burying my face in marijuana plants all day to like de-leaf or trimmer, etc. I'm telling you, burying my face in marijuana plants all day got me to buy a nose and eyebrow trimmer, a good nose and eyebrow trimmer. And it's like, it's the weirdest thing. Is like, man, I'm turning into him. I've never been homosexual. I've never been bisexual, but I've heard about this damn term metrosexual, and I met some, you know, a bunch of them some bitches up in New York. There's a lot of metrosexuals up in New York, and I feel like a fucking metrosexual buying an eyebrow trimmer. But I tell you what, the first time I used it, and the next day I really did have to de-leaf. I had to de-leaf the next fucking day after the first time I used my eyebrow and nose hair trimmer, and it was amazing. I was like, dude, this is the greatest invention ever. I can't believe I ever made fun of this shit, you know? But like,
I'm just wondering, are you coming with me to temple on Saturday with Moidal? She's got the best shakshuka recipe. You wouldn't believe how good her shakshuka is.
let me tell you how you just started World War III. Because in order to have a temple, in order to have a temple to go to, we have to destroy that mosque, all right, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and get that the Dome of the Rock. You know, yeah, I mean, we gotta get rid of that stuff in order to get a temple. So you just started World War III. So I'm absolutely yes, yay, yay, yes, yes.
The
I
only
mean,
temple I need is in Brooklyn, sweetie. That's the only temple I need.
There is no temple in Brooklyn, and there is no temple. Period. Literally, there is no temple. I don't understand why you say you need a temple in Brooklyn. The only temple you need, and it doesn't make
I
any
didn't
sense
say
either.
I didn't say I needed. I just said that it was there. Those are two different things.
But there's not a
you.
temple in Brooklyn. There's not a temple anywhere on planet Earth. Very literally, there is not.
Lots of temples.
So
Yahweh is building a temple in your heart, let me tell you.
God, Aiden, has anybody ever told you you're a really cruel person?
well,
How am I
the Bible
cruel? How
states.
is that cruelty?
The Bible states, not just one time, it's not just one time. The Bible states in Isaiah chapter 60, Isaiah chapter 61, Isaiah chapter 11, Isaiah chapter 2, Jeremiah 30,
That's where I
Jeremiah
got
30,
my shakshuka
31.
recipe.
Yeah,
Oh,
30, Jeremiah 31 through 33, Ezekiel 38
Oh,
through
goodness.
48. I mean, it's 14 times over. God says, the Bible says, God says, and the Bible says. It's a real physical in Jerusalem, real physical actual temple. And he's going to instill the Torah in our hearts. He's going to instill our laws that we are supposed to obey in our hearts, so we can stop being so rebellious. It's not in. It's basically what it says is we're not even good. It's not going to matter that we have to obey the law because he's literally instilling it into our hearts. So it says nothing in any way, shape, or form ever about it's a spiritual temple or it's a temple in our hearts at all. You have to literally just make that up in order to make it say that, because it doesn't say that in any way, shape, or form. It says very literally, it says geographically over there in the land of Israel, specifically Jerusalem, all right, specifically geographically, very physically here on planet Earth. It even says all humans on planet Earth will quake at his presence. So on planet Earth, the surface of the earth, there is no way that you could say that Jesus is the temple without
Only the
saying
surface?
what?
What if there's a basement temple somewhere then?
It's,
There could be a basement temple.
it says all creatures in the sea also.
Ah, well, you just got to bury under the sea floor. It's where Atlantis is. If we find Atlantis, we'll find it.
Well, it says 14 times over. It says it's going to be in the city of Jerusalem, a real physical temple, and all nations on earth are coming to the real city of Jerusalem to sacrifice. And if they don't, their nation no longer gets. I mean, it's we're going back to living under God.
And it's kind of cool. That's kind of a cool part of God is like, yeah, sure, we could like sacrifice vegetables and stuff that aren't actually alive and capable of physically feeling pain, but that's just not bloody and violent enough. Honestly, I need living animals to be killed for me.
Yeah, Christianity has this. Christians look. There's 2.5 billion of these dudes. But Christians are always like, as a vast majority general rule of thumb, God is all loving and God is merciful and God is all powerful and he's all knowing, but he's all kind and loving. And no, he's not. Very
He's all
literally.
merciful until you burn the wrong fucking incense, and then he smites your ass.
Right. He's not merciful. He's judgmental. He's extremely judgmental. He says, live this way. And if you don't live this way, I'm going to fuck you up.
But I love you.
Hey, brother Pack over here. Y'all better stop cursing on Logan's show, even though he's fine with it.
All right, pardon. I didn't know. Christian, why don't you join and I'll stop cursing? Dead ass. I'll prove it to you.
Why don't you debate with me, Skylar? Where's that debate?
I'll totally debate.
When's that debate coming? Oh yeah, sure.
I've got
any day
time
now.
I'm not working at a marijuana farm no more as a very
yeah.
recently, so.
I'll go grab Christian and we'll impromptu debate because that went so well the first time over.
Right.
Oh, we've got a different Claude here. He's evolved into a new Frenchman.
Yes, I've become styly. Yeah.
Oh no.
Styly.
He's keeping up with the fashion trends. All right, they move very fast in France.
I've got to keep up with the Gangster Ghost.
And I'm still the only one who can't have an avatar.
Why is that?
I don't know. I think because
can you not turn your camera off?
The thing is, I can't turn my camera off because I don't have a camera, and the camera is already turned off too. So
the little camera thing on the bottom has a little like red cross through it.
Yep.
Are you operating on a home PC or are you operating on a laptop?
No, I have a stationary PC. And
you have a stationary PC.
Yeah, and the screen is isn't like a regular computer screen. It's a TV, a flat screen, a small
LCD. You have an LCD or what?
I think so.
It almost sounded like you asked.
You could hook in like a dummy camera, put like some tape over the lens, and then it'll allow you to pick an avatar.
Yeah, but then I have to go and buy a fucking camera that I don't need and don't want.
Go to a yard sale and pick up one of those.
Oh, come
Real
on. A
cheap.
camera's only going to be like, what, 20 million Swedish krona at this point, given the inflation of your currency?
Are you saying we have a bad economy right now?
I'm saying everywhere has a bad economy right now, honestly. There's
Yeah.
not really. Try to find someone on the earth right now that's like, country economy's going great right now. Things are just going real well.
Skybro dropped out.
We're just scattered.
Oh, he had to go to synagogue. He had to go to synagogue. I told you earlier about the recipe. He had to get it.
You're
What do you
such
do if Achilles joined us?
Who were you talking about earlier, Dustin? You were saying someone. You were talking about someone's intelligence, and then you were comparing it to like they have a cell phone, but they're describing what the cell phone
Lupin.
does rather than what it is. Oh, that's who he was describing. Okay, I thought he was talking about me at first. I was like, "Oh, that's so verklempt. That's so verklempt what he's
No.
saying."
No, my issue with you, as far as your thinking process goes, is that you somehow end up going from logic 1 + 1 = 2 to I'm gonna burn down your house because you disagree with me.
But I don't actually do that, though.
Well, no,
That's
you
not
haven't burnt the
logic.
house down
That's-
yet. That doesn't mean you won't snap one day.
I mean,
That's
look,
Aiden's very tired.
if you think that what I'm doing right now is burning down the house, Dustin, like you've seen me when I've started getting legitimately upset, and I haven't
You
gotten
mean yesterday?
legitimately. I mean, like that was like stage 1 of 5, legitimately
Dude.
upset, Aiden.
Dude, look, I heard your voice. I knew you were hitting runaway like diesel effect here. The oil was blowing past the oil rings, and you were starting to rev up because of it. I had
You
to
know
hit the
why?
shutdown
You know why?
switch.
Because every single time I shoveled coal into the fucking engine, I got nothing back but like burning steam in my face. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna start getting a little bit upset when all the feedback I get is just 3rd-degree burns from the funnel spurting boiling hot steam in my face.
I saw, dude. I saw. Like I only had to listen to you for like 1 second. I knew where this was going.
I'm not
You had
saying
to-
that it wouldn't have ended up in a worse place than it did, but luckily it didn't.
Buddy.
So.
Buddy, I swear, if you could reach through the screen, you'd be strangling the man. I know better. I freaking know better. Okay, don't play this off. I
don't know.
heard
Lupin's a
your
pretty
voice.
Lupin's a pretty big guy. I think he'd probably win in a fist fight if me and him got into an altercation. He's a pretty big guy.
he's
Well,
just
I'm
freaking
gonna
talented.
refrain. I'm gonna refrain from that conversation because it'll get me in trouble later. But
Oh
yeah.
boy. I mean, I don't think that I'm a softie by any means. I think that I think I'd do all right in the fight, but ultimately I think I'd lose.
Stop asking me to speculate. I do not want to destroy Lupin as a person.
I never said a single thing about you saying a word, Dustin. That's all you, my friend.
You keep putting up hypotheticals, okay? You know me. I can't leave a hypothetical alone.
Dustin, what would you do if you fell into an alternate dimension where Lupin was your dad and the Deviant Outcast was your mom? And
well, I would compile.
I did not agree to that union, okay?
I mean, she's hamstrung either way. She can't take pride in her son, and she definitely doesn't like her husband.
What if you fall in another
Dude, this is what I'm talking about when I say you're just rude, savage Haggerty. You're burning down the house. You don't play it off with me, man. I'm making legitimate claims here. You know it. You and your mental jujitsu.
Hey man,
hey, Dustin, what if you fall in another
my
dimension
mental jujitsu. Sorry, go ahead, Logan.
where Claude and Outcast are your mom and dad, and Aiden's your brother?
Dude, look, I'll explain this really simple. I'd compile a list of possibilities for me getting back, and then I'd compile a list of whether or not the work and effort would be worth not just taking a bullet in the head.
I will just say this: if me and Dustin were siblings, I don't care if we were younger or older, if we were twins, one of us would be dead before we reached adulthood. Like if we were forced to live in the same domicile until we became
were
fully grown
twins.
adults, one of us would be dead before the other turned 18.
I'm
If you
not gonna
were
lie. I think
twins,
that's
you
a
would be
severe
born
possibility.
strangling each other.
Oh my goodness.
My point of view is right. No, it's not.
That's all it takes. That's all it takes. That and a little bit of liquor involved, and it's just over. And it's just done. It's a Cain and Abel situation at that point.
But Steven says you're a little kid.
I am a little kid. It's all the more embarrassing that I'd body slam him. See, if we're talking about people I'd win in a fight against, I feel like I'd win against Steven. I feel like I could take Steven. He's a big guy, but I feel like he's slow on the uptake. He's a slow kind of guy, so I'd just be able to maneuver around him.
I'd win.
Stop
You'd win.
forcing me.
Oh, yeah.
Stop forcing
Okay.
me to speculate. Okay, knock it off. I don't want to be involved in this conversation anymore because I'm going to
Dustin.
say things that will get me in trouble.
Very stubborn.
Dustin, I've got a question for you. Do you ever play the original Mortal Kombat?
Yeah,
I did.
I
You're
love
familiar-
the original.
You're familiar with E Honda, then, of course.
Behan. That's
Oh
Street
God,
Fighter.
you're forcing me to go back.
No,
into
you're
that
right.
memory.
That's Street Fighter. No, you're right. That is Street Fighter. Logan, thank you. That is Street Fighter. You were talking about my mental jujitsu. My mental jujitsu just composes of me being E Honda and just spamming kick over and over and over again, and the other person is just left with really not much else to do but just get frustrated and upset and not really sure what they're supposed to do at this point, so they just throw the controller down and leave the room. That's my mental jujitsu.
I'm the one player that's gonna find where you're weak and hit you there.
Remember when you say he wanted to do to you, Aiden? Kick you?
What was that?
He wanted to kick you in the Clive?
Oh
The
yeah, he
claw?
wanted to kick me in the clod. Yeah, he did. He did want to kick me in the clod. That's true.
Santa Claude balls.
Just yeah. Oh my goodness. I wish Claude could still be a part of the Proverbs Guys community just so we could sneak a few balls jokes in every once in a while. Because come on, like the show wouldn't be better with that.
Oh well. One day I will try again. See what happens.
Like, you can say the word ass on there, but you can't say balls. Come on now.
I
That's
don't
not even
know.
true. Steven said to me, he's like, "You've got balls, dude, and they're Claude." That's how Logan edited it.
When did that happen? I'm confused.
Oh, this happened when the huge blowout over the Logan bullying thing happened, and Steven came on Father Chuck's channel, and he got really upset because I was doing the mental equivalent of spamming the E Honda kick with him over and over again, and he just started going off on, "Aiden, you've got balls, dude, and they're small," and stuff like that, and just getting legitimately torn up. That was the one where he got off saying, "This is bullshit," before he logged off. He didn't realize he was unmuted.
I was there for that. I can't
that
believe
was-
I didn't think about that. Yeah,
that was
I remember
peak.
that now.
That was peak. The real Steven came out for just a few seconds, and it was just so beautiful because I heard from Mark that when he was at DAL with him, he cusses like a sailor when you actually are with him in person. And I don't doubt that. He's a Southerner. It's just par for the course. Like, that's just what you do. You just curse at every single little fucking inconvenience in your life, and God fucking damn this and fuck that, and that's I don't doubt that that's Steven. So
I think-
it's great.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I think that whole thing is a mistranslation. I think curse is actually like hexing someone.
Yes.
Like, in all honesty,
Yes.
I believe
that is the connotation. That is what they mean with cursing.
Yeah, in the
Right.
scripture.
It-
yeah, no, in
yeah.
the scripture that's explicitly what they mean. So I don't really understand.
Steven doesn't
Like-
know that. I noticed.
Just
which is
Just on a
hilarious.
genuine level, how is saying the word fuck like demeaning the Holy Spirit in any way? Because to me, my
Isn't.
mind, when somebody says that, that just tells me that the Holy Spirit is an entity that's so fragile that even just uttering a word somehow damages or demeans it in some way. It's almost like they're underpowering the Holy Spirit in their eyes, because I'm pretty sure the Holy Spirit does not give two shits whatever the hell I say on my little tiny part of the little tiny speck that is this planet in the totality of the entire universe. I'm pretty sure he's got other things on his mind.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not the same as what's the word? Taking the Lord's name in vain. That's something completely different. That's,
no, I agree.
But just
Yeah.
using curse words. How?
Yeah.
And why? They are just words.
Well, see, like, and this is an argument that I have with Steven on the regular. Woe used to be a curse word that Jesus used all the time. It used to mean fuck you.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it meant. Woe unto you. What did woe turn into? It turned into woo. What is woo defined as? Coitus between two people. I mean, come on.
But
You know that today's the first day of winter?
Yeah,
that's true. It's the first day of summer for Claude. I think you should probably make him feel included, Logan. Just because he's a southern hemisphere. Just because he's on the bottom side of the ice, almost close to the ice wall, doesn't mean that he's just a non-entity, okay?
Oh, okay.
Yes, I have to make sure when I go for a walk, I don't fall off the edge of the earth today.
Maybe that's how Achilles explains like why the Southern Cross can be seen in only the Southern Hemisphere and not the Northern Hemisphere. He'd probably be like, well, people like Claude are on the other side of the flat Earth. They are on the other side, which makes them able to see stars that we cannot on this side.
Well, Aiden, I heard they say where he's at doesn't exist, and anyone who say they're from Australia are secret agents.
Anyone who says they're from Australia are secret agents.
Yeah.
Wow.
Australia doesn't exist.
Yeah, I've heard flat earthers say that just because the continent of Australia, just its existence is such a stunning refutation of their entire ideology. So it's just kind of a case of, well, it's far more convenient to just act like it doesn't exist than it is to go through the semantics of explaining our little like the mental gymnastics of how Australia can somehow exist in a flat earth.
You know, the Aboriginal people of the Australia, they have existed there for about 40,000 years, which is a bit older than 6,000.
Well, that's because you got your carbon dating. You got your time, which is your god, might I add. Time is your god, and evolution is your religion. So I just got to say, if you want to worship Father Time a little bit harder, why don't you just call him what he is, Father Time?
Dude, I'm getting really excited for my conversation with Big Bad Mama on Littlefoot.
Are you?
It's going to be a good one.
I'm excited
When
for
would
it.
you like to have that?
What?
When would you like to have that?
I'm probably going to have it after I'm gone from my grandparents, like a week away from now. But while I'm here, it gives me an excellent opportunity to put together slides and, you know, because there's a few points of controversy that are still kicking around about that. And I'm going to see if I'll put it this way.
Sorry, go ahead.
I want to see if his bias will allow him to see that there's still a few issues with this discovery.
Okay, that'll definitely be an interesting discussion. I was just going to ask, do you have over 15,000 slides ready for this? I got 15,000 slides ready for the debate with Big Bad Mama all put together from 1993.
I mean...
Last time I updated it was 2008.
There's also another really interesting aspect of this, but I'm not going to bring this up as a part of the debate, but it points to a complication with the successive progression okay, because there's a mix of features here that both incline the direction of so-called evolution, but it also points to certain elements of reverse atavism that need to be addressed.
Say what?
You don't know what I'm saying right now?
No, I think I missed some words or to.
Did I cut out?
I don't know. You could have.
Oh.
It could be my brain that cut out. Also, I don't know if the others heard.
So it okay, if you're looking at Littlefoot, there are certain aspects of the organisms that they are claiming are present due to the structure of the bone that
Yeah.
point to both a linear direction of evolution, but also a regression of reverse atavism that would cause certain issues to the
It's
progression.
atavism. Atavism.
Reverse atavism.
Yeah,
Reverse
I'm not
atavism.
familiar. Yes, I'm not familiar with the.
It's a clever way of saying de-evolution.
Okay.
Right, but it's more specific, and it doesn't bring about as much controversy because de-evolution is not accepted, whereas reverse atavism is more of an accepted term amongst most evolutionists.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on track, I think.
Copy that.
Yes. But in what way would you said it was two parts. One that speaks to linear
to progressive
evolution. Yeah,
linear
progressive.
evolution.
And
right,
the other
there are aspects of the discovery that would point to linear evolution, but there's also aspects of the discovery that would suggest a regression of reverse atavism, right? Whereas I haven't actually heard this addressed. Okay, and there's I mean I'm looking. What do you mean?
How?
Well, because there's controversy. What was his name? Let me hold on a second. I forget the dude's name.
I'm gonna rejoin on my computer. I'll be right back, Logan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, what was that dude's name? Charles Oxford.
Dustin?
Or Charles. Hold on. Charles. Oxnard. I think that's the right name. He points out that Charles Oxnard points out that the ear canal would not allow for proper balance due to the design, because it's more similar to a chimpanzee than it is a human. But if you look at the structure and the skeleton, it's more of an upright bipedal animal. So if you have ears that are designed for a quadruped, but you're looking at a biped, right? That would, in my mind, point to reverse atavism. Because you would think that the ear would start changing before the body structure, in my opinion, because it would be easier to change the ear than it would to change entire structure around how we move, right? So like going from quadruped to biped, right? But you don't have the subsequent software in your ear in order to handle such a change. How are you going to be coordinated enough to escape from a predator or provide any kind of advantage to the group?
I'm thinking, without knowing any of the details, this is just my first, like, how could this happen? Why could this be? I'm thinking, because
I don't know how.
No, but I'm this is my thought process. How because we know that in general, nature always takes the easy path, even though it further down the line can be a more complicated, worse, seemingly worse. But in the beginning, it was the quick, easy path. So maybe then.
No, well, hold on. Hold on. Let me
Yep.
let me push back on that theory, because evolutionists, they say that it is simpler systems that then compound upon themselves to make more complex systems.
Exactly.
Right? So, but if you're looking at a linear progression of evolution, okay, you, in my opinion, would see changes in the smaller parts long before you would see changes in the bigger parts, because it would be easier and it would be less energy cost effective
But
over the long haul and the survival of the organism. Because, like I said, if you're going from bipedal
yeah,
to, or no, quadruped to bipedal,
yeah,
you have to have that inner ear, right? That's more human structure. Otherwise, you have fluid that's in the wrong place. But if you look
yeah.
at the orbital occipital placing, the hole, I forget what it's called, the hole that goes through the bottom of the
we
skull.
still have that issue today.
No, we don't. Not like this particular.
No,
not this particular.
Not in that. Omfång. Not to that degree.
Littlefoot.
Not to that degree.
Right. But again, that still points to an issue, right? I mean,
yeah, sure.
if you're trying to run.
If again, I'm just speculating. I don't know. This is not my area, so I'm just speculating. What can things, based on, of course, the things that I do know, like we are humans, we have 2 legs, that sort of thing. When we talk about the nature taking the more easy path, yes, the ear is smaller than, let's say, the pelvis, but it's more complex. There are more bones, and most of all, it's closely connected to the most important organ that we have, which is the brain. So changes there could potentially be more complex, more involved, more difficult than changes in other areas. Do you see how
That's an interesting argument, right? But again, the
I'm
reality
not saying this
is you're
is
dealing.
the way it is, because I have no fucking idea. But
well, that's an interesting argument. Okay, that the idea is the ear would be more complex in order to evolve.
yeah.
But here's the issue with that. Okay, if the organism has any concept of where it's going from progression to goal, right, to conclusion or thesis of whatever undertaking it's in, you have more of a structural change in the body, right?
Yeah.
How do I put this? How does the body develop a concept of from bipedal to, or from quadruped to bipedal, right? But it doesn't have the necessary equipment to use the mechanics, okay, right? Because if you look at the bones, you can see that over time there was a lot more climbing than there was walking.
Oh yes. 100%.
Their forearms
Right.
used to be a lot more bulky than they are now. Yeah, that's definitely true.
Absolutely. But if you have a structural change, okay, right, then you wouldn't expect for the mode of transportation to stay the same. At least I wouldn't. not as an evolution, not if I, as an evolutionist, if I was being honest about
It depends on how drastic the environment around you changes, though, because you don't have much of a choice at a certain point. You know, if you're a species like the prototypical Australopithecines, you would have found yourself in an environment where you would have originally been surrounded by very lush savannas and jungles and the things of that nature, where you do have ample climbing room and a lot of different avenues to transport yourself through those means. That's rapidly disappearing through major climatic events around the earth. The Sahara and sub-Saharan areas where a lot of early mankind came from used to be a lot more lush, and then they became more grassy.
Today, millions of years ago, that doesn't hold water.
What do you mean? Millions of years
Well,
ago,
because
we can see that the Mediterranean, when the Gibraltar Gap was originally broken and the Mediterranean Sea began filling in, we see a huge shift in the ocean gyres of the Earth's currents, and that resulted in huge shifts in the weather patterns in areas, especially in the equatorial parts of the Earth, where the gyre was most affected.
Yeah, but also
over
up
how
here.
long of a time period, though? What I'm getting at is that this individual could have lived their entire life, right? And then there's another issue with your premise, okay? Is that if you're in this area where it's lush and fertile and you don't have any need to run away from any predators, why didn't we see a sudden upcropping of mass breeding and a larger number of skeletons being able to be found?
Because you're shielded more from predators, that could also be a sign that the actual population and stocks of those predators themselves depleted as well. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's abundance just because they're not being predated upon as often.
Well, no, but you would expect a larger number of hominids, wouldn't you?
Just because
they would have more opportunity.
Not necessarily, because
and
the total amount of resources available in the environment could have depleted, which could have led to a decrease in predation because there's not as many predators around to be able
this little foot discovery made it to adulthood.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's no signs of this individual being attacked. Okay. So if you're going to tell me that there wasn't enough resources for this individual to make it to adulthood, and that's the reason why we don't find them anymore.
But no.
There's an issue there.
That's not
running into an issue. You got.
That's not what I'm saying, though.
Of course, he reached adulthood, but the question is, that's what one individual. How many people died at an early age?
Then you should find more skeletons.
No.
More articulated. No. And that's another thing. Why not?
Infant mortality was already extremely high before industrialized medicine.
Most people who died at a very young age. The highest degree of deaths were during the first year of living, and up to, say, 4 or 5 years. After that, the likelihood of you actually making it to adulthood increased exponentially. High. And when we are small, when we're babies, our bones are not bones; it's cartilage.
We don't know that about we don't know that about the prehominids.
We do.
We don't know that. We don't know what No, we don't. We don't know that about the prehominids.
We do know that.
We don't know if it was.
We do know that for this reason. First of all, we have found young children, babies.
Of humans?
We were talking pre-human. Humanoid.
Prehominid.
Yes.
Okay, humanoid. We found the skeletons, right?
Yeah, they have been.
So why aren't we finding more of this little foot in the area? It's a simple question.
Yeah. Okay. So wait, could I try taking this just real quick? Could I try taking this?
Sure.
So What you're speaking of is, just to clarify real quick, a singular individual which has been found which shows no markings or signs of predation, correct? And that they've made it to adulthood.
Female.
A female.
It's important. It's important to notice that it's a female.
Okay.
Yes.
It's important to
So-
notice that I'm not a female, asshole.
I didn't say you were, sweetie. I just said you sounded like one. That's all I said. It's okay. It's okay.
Hey, you can hit him with your falafel whip.
He's gonna bash me with his menorah.
No, I wouldn't want to bend it up. You know, I'm too OCD. I want them to be perfectly parallel and straight.
God damn it! I was making a point. I was making something approaching a point.
We were talking about the number of.
Yes.
We were talking about the number of prehominids.
Yes. Okay. So
well, Littlefoot in specific.
yes. Okay. So how do you not know then that just because that one particular person has not been predated upon, that's an extremely small sample size, first and foremost, to make a determination that there weren't as many predators, period, just because this one individual was not predated upon. The fact that it's a female would indicate to me. Hold on. I'm not done. I'm not done, but I'm not done. Just let me finish. Okay, I've been pretty quiet for most of this. I would say that the fact that they're female lends even better to the fact that during hunter-gatherer societies, females would typically take on a gathering role, whereas men would take on a hunting role. Not always, of course. There were exceptions to that rule, because gender roles weren't really a very strict thing at this point in time. But typically, you would be a gatherer if you were a woman, and you'd be a hunter if you were a man. And you would not have to be put in situations anywhere nearly as frequently where you would be in actual significant danger. I'm not saying that would never present itself, but I agree that it's an aberration. The fact that they don't have any marks of predation upon them whatsoever, I would expect there to be at least one or two, but I don't think that's indicative of there not being many predators at all. I just think that's indicative of this particular individual living a lifestyle that was more sheltered, relatively speaking, than other individuals within that group.
Well, and you know what else is interesting about that is that they haven't found any traces of family, right? It doesn't make sense to me. This perfect specimen, and also the fact that the bones are so soft, right? And they didn't calcify. That's another issue.
Well, at the very least, they had to have had a mother and father, right? Like, they had to have had a mother and father. So those sorts of Neolithic groups did not typically break apart under much of any circumstance.
Right.
So...
Right, and if this one person went missing, you would think somebody would have went looking for him.
Well, it's not even necessarily a case of them going missing. They could have died of an illness or disease that did not ravage their bones. It could have just ravaged their flesh.
They could have been sacrificed.
No, sacrifice would have had some kind of evidence of foul play. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have
like strangle anything, and that could be determined from the bones. So this is. But
I'm not very familiar with this particular find. I should say.
So I'm just gonna lay it out there, and the whole premise that there wasn't very many predators was based on your summation that. Anyway, we're getting way into the weeds. What I'm getting at is that a female that's off balance, can't run, has no way of escaping, would have been an easy target for any kind of a predator. That, in my opinion, would lend the notion that the lady was in a position of relative ease and should have been a heavy breeder. Okay, and if that's the case with one, I don't see why it wouldn't be the case with many, and we should find more evidence.
To me, from an archaeological standpoint, I would look at the fact that you have this female skeleton who has some kind of deformity, so she needs support from the group to survive.
Absolutely.
And she has.
But then the group all have the same problem.
Listen. I'm just gonna finish off.
I'm listening. Go ahead.
She needed to be cared for. Me as an archaeologist, when I see or hear something like that, my conclusion is that she belonged to a society where we had developed these human types of caring for the group, even though an individual can't necessarily provide for themselves. They can't. They still have a value, even though they can't contribute with like food or running after children, or maybe they need to be fed. That's all it says to me, and that's also part of evolution. Evolution isn't just, it is from a biological standpoint perhaps, but I'm not a biologist, so I see it a bit differently.
Well, Dustin was talking
That's
about
all.
it
It was just I just threw it in there in the mix.
I mean, Africa's known for its dangerous predators.
Sure.
That's what it's always been known for, right? I mean, as far as I've always
Now,
known, every time they
in this particular time
Period.
period in time. Well, that's not necessarily true. There's different periods on this Earth's history where there have been a waxing and waning in the total environmental resources available on the African continent. So I don't agree that it's just always been this sort of static, dangerous place because of predator. I'm sure that it's always been a dangerous place as much as any other place is a dangerous place. But I don't think that it's especially dangerous, so to speak.
If you follow the Herven line, weren't they all vegetarians and animals kissing each other before the flood?
Aiden, you got to make up my mind here, okay?
Okay.
We have an adult Littlefoot
Yes.
who had to have the resources to make it there.
That's right.
Okay? Either the reason that we're not finding these other bones and skeletal structures is because there was enough predators around to get rid of them, or the resources were drying up. You are running into a contradiction.
No,
buddy.
I
sorry,
took the
it's
position.
truth.
I took the position that it's most likely a case of dwindling resources, because that seems to be the more likely outcome in my mind, given the evidence that's been presented here. Just because we have an example of one individual, that's like you said, it's a very small sample size, and I do wish that we had more individuals within this particular area that was discovered to be able to compare them to. But off of the sample size that we do have, I would make the conclusion that it's likely that this is an individual who was a group of a dwindling number of hominids, of Australopithecines, who, while still being able to survive, were indeed a grouping of limited number compared to previous generations where there probably was more abundance.
I mean, if there was more abundance, you would see more evidence. All right. What I'm getting at here is that there's a contradiction in the linear progression of evolution, and it's blatantly outlined by the mismatching of parts in this one particular sample that happens to be 90% complete. Do you grant me my argument?
I grant you that it's an aberration for sure. As far as evolution being strictly linear, it's really only linear in the strict sense on a special level. Like, when we're talking about individuals displaying individual traits, what you were talking about earlier as far as atavism was concerned is a great example of the fact that evolution is not necessarily just this straightforward linear progression of things where it just somehow gets better and better and better. There's examples that we see in nature of traits re-exhibiting themselves or reasserting themselves in species. So I don't really agree with the premise that it's just this strictly linear thing. That's really only the case on a special level, and that is made up of, how many different organisms that whether you're talking about, hominids where it's hundreds of thousands at this point, or insects which are hundreds of millions, you're looking at, in either case, a species that have many, many individuals within it that would be aberrations compared to that species as a whole, so to speak. That's why mutations express themselves and why speciation occurs.
If you're looking at examples of insects, we have fossils from billions of years ago, and they haven't changed. If we're looking at ad hominins or
Well,
any
you're
of the
talking about like
homos, for that
trilobites.
example. No, I'm not talking about trilobites. I'm talking about ants. I'm talking about
Oh, well, they haven't been around for
dragonflies.
billions of years then. Like the Cambrian explosion only happened 530 or 580 actually million years ago. So I do think that's important to bring up.
Okay, billions was an embellishment. I meant to say millions. My point is, over millions of years, the dragonfly hasn't changed. You're looking at several different models of the Homo habilis in such a short period of time. I'm wondering, why is it that we're still clinging on to this common ancestry when we have no evidence for it for the dragonfly, and that goes back millions of years?
That's not true.
And
Just because you find a relative staticness in that species' morphological development, that does not in any way, shape, or form refute a common ancestor.
So there's no falsifiability then.
That's not true.
There's no basis for comparison. Well, then what?
I was just
What
about
can
to
you
say,
give me?
the basis of morphological change as it pertains to evolution typically correlates to environmental availability of resources, right? So if you have a hagfish that has been in basically the exact same environment and has had access to the exact same resources for hundreds of millions of years, yeah, you're right. You're going to observe a species which really doesn't change all that much morphologically because it doesn't
Dude,
need
you're
to assert
contradicting
itself
yourself.
into a different niche. No, I'm not.
You're contradicting
That's
yourself.
one
Yeah, because
particular
just
example
like
of a
not
species not having to change all that much. That doesn't mean that there's plenty of other environments in this planet where other species did have to adapt and change. You're trying to look at this.
all of these species had only the same space to adapt an environment, and it's only one world. There's not some special
There's
species
one
petri
world,
dish
but with
where
hundreds of millions of individual biomes and environments found within it.
that for whatever reason have varying differences of results based
Yes.
on their geological area from where they're located. But the reality is the geological area where they're located is the same geological area that everything else is located from. You're trying to separate things
No.
by time, but even though the time doesn't separate the space has always been the same. So if you're talking about static, and a specific species can remain the same for millions of years, right? But the environment keeps changing, and the one thing that makes the change is the environment. Then you have a contradiction because we have stagnation versus change, and the environment is the exact same. And you can't say that it's a size difference because back then dragonflies were much bigger.
The induction.
And that's
the induction of environmental change will disproportionately affect some species rather than just others. It does not
that
affect.
is a cop
That's not a
out.
cop out.
No,
Let me
no,
finish.
it's not
Let me
a
finish.
cop-out.
That's not a cop out. You're
That's
painting this.
exactly.
You're painting this with such an overly broad brush to the point where you're just.
No, I'm
Yes,
not.
you are. You are. You're saying that there's an environmental change. Therefore, all of the species within that environment need to change at exactly the same rate in order to accommodate that environmental
That's not what I
change.
said.
That seems to be what you're indicating.
I said over millions of years. How does that seem that way? That can't seem
It
that
seems
way. I
that
said over
because
millions of years. I granted you as much time as you want. I didn't say that species were interlocked by their motion of change. What I'm saying is you should see some change when you're looking at a million years of one stagnation that's exposed to all the different environments that one species is, but has radical change. There's no explanation for that. You know it as well as I do. That's why you're about to freak out and start yelling.
No, there's divergences away from the hagfish. The hagfish as a species has remained the same. This is true. But there are other species which have diverged from the hagfish that have in fact gone to exploit different environmental niches as time has gone on. It's not as simple as just saying, well, the hagfish still exists, therefore it's just been static. Yes, that species is still around, but it has ancestors that we can trace genetically, that we can show millions of years ago through examples of like the K2 extinction. They took advantage of huge
I'm gonna hold you to that.
niches within their environment.
I'm gonna hold you to that. I haven't even broached the genetics. I'm gonna remember you said this, and I'm gonna bring it up later.
No, that's fine.
I better hope you. I hope you know what you're talking about right now, because I don't think you do.
Well, I'm talking about genetic commonality correlating with ancestry with the hagfish. That's what I'm talking about.
Based on the complete genetic model that we have of the hagfish that we don't actually have.
The complete genetic.
What are you doing right now? The only model that we have to base it on that mapped out is the human genetic model. So when you bring up genetics,
yes, the human genome is the only one that's been entirely mapped out. You're right. The human genome is the only one that's been entirely mapped out. I'm not disagreeing with you, but that does not mean that. Hold on, Dustin.
Just remember, you brought this up.
You were talking about me jumping down your throat, and now it kind of seems like it's going the other way around here. You know, you're talking about how I was going to get freaked
because
out.
you stepped in dog poo, buddy. You just stepped in dog poo.
No, I'm trying to exhibit to you why that is not the case, and you don't really seem to be listening to me right now.
I'm listening very intently.
Okay. The point that I'm making is not, I don't think that you need to entirely map out a genome to show a correlation between two different species genomes. I don't think that you need to have the entire map in order to show that those two maps connect to one another, so to speak. Like, I don't think that that is a necessary piece in order to ascertain the entirety of the puzzle. Like, we didn't know every single little aspect to nuclear fission before the first nuclear reactor was developed. We only needed to know just enough to be able to make a fission reaction occur, and then we built everything else off of that. So
why can't you accept me when I say Jesus Christ raised from dead? Because, you know, I have to have absolute evidence in order to prove that claim.
You don't even have to have absolute evidence. You have to have literally any evidence whatsoever.
Right. Because your evidence is superior for some reason.
That's not even superior. I don't have evidence against Jesus rising from the dead because you can't prove a negative, Dustin.
No, the claim is the issue, right? I'm beyond the point of evidence, and it's the fact that you value your claim higher than mine, and you
Who
get out.
Who doesn't value their claims higher than other people's claims?
I mean, that's a valid counterpoint, but I think it's more of a dodge than answering.
You just pointed out its validity in this conversation. I think it's important to point out that you yourself, as a human being with vested interests in their ideas, hold their points and views above others simply because those are the views that you've taken. Like, nobody holds a viewpoint that they think is false or that they think isn't true, because that would be inherently ridiculous.
I'm not jumping straight to you're wrong. No. I don't take solace in the idea that I have my point to beyond the point of any kind of doubt, and then make fun of people based on that premise. That's what you do.
No,
and the reality
no, I don't,
is,
though. I don't make fun of people based on that premise.
Let me finish. Yes, you do. You mock everybody that you possibly can. You do. You don't lie to me. You can be honest.
You don't think I mock secular humanism as much as I mock?
I haven't heard you. No. I've spent much time with you. You don't mock any secular humanists in front of me.
I try to point out the silliness that's made against Christians, like the stupid arguments that atheists use against Christians. Like, if God real, why bad thing happen? Like, I try to point out the ridiculousness in some atheist arguments as much as I do Christian arguments, because there's plenty of
not even close
to be found. There's plenty of silliness to be found on the atheistic side.
On both sides, I agree with that, but I don't think that you're balanced.
Oh, I'm not perfectly balanced.
Of course,
I have a bias. Of course, I have a bias because I have a vested interest in a certain form of ideology.
No, you have more than a bias, though. You take it to a personal level.
Dustin,
right? That's my whole issue with you.
Dustin, how do I... Okay, I take it to a personal level insofar as trying to be personal with somebody in extrapolating their beliefs and trying to interweave
you think
their argument.
you think about beliefs is pointing out this with his girlfriend, even though they, dude, you're burying yourself right now.
Dustin,
Don't go there,
Dustin.
okay?
No, Dustin, you what you just said right there. I'll speak to that perfectly fine. I did
You're burying
that
yourself.
in the context. No, I did that in the context of being provoked. So it's not like I just go around making fun of people and mocking people. Like that's just silly, in my opinion. I
Aiden.
don't just mock people for the sake of mocking people. If I think that they have ideas or if they say things that I think are worthy of mockery, of course I'm going to mock them because I think that it's worthwhile to do so. That doesn't mean that that's
a
my
cop
inherent.
out.
That doesn't mean that that's my inherent tactic.
You don't.
No, it's
You
not.
only
Because
see
you're trying
again.
to say that
It's
that's my inherent tactic going into any conversation, and that's
not
not
what
true.
I said. That's not what I said. I said that was my
Aiden.
issue with you. I didn't say that it was your main tactic. Now you're making false claims. Okay, look, dude. Again, this really goes back to the idea that you have a bias, right? But the other end of the equation is that you take it to a personal level when someone comes up with a good counter argument. Right?
That's not true.
How
I don't take it to a personal level when someone comes up with a counter argument. That's not true. I literally
I can pull up example.
Yeah, I can pull
example,
up one too. I can pull up one
example.
too. The last time that I was on Proverbs Guy's show, I'll give you one right now. The last time that I was on there, I had a 3.5 hour long discussion with Achilles about astronomy and about physics and about everything relating to those two topics, and never once in the entire course of that discussion did anything personal come up whatsoever. The only time that something came up was when Steven invoked it and brought it into the conversation. So no, sir, I disagree with your notion that I just bring up something personal when someone comes up with a good argument. Achilles had plenty of arguments to be had in that discussion, and I never once got personal with him. I only addressed the science of what he was saying. And that is what I'm
interested in. You can come up with one outlier. You can come up with one outlier, but just like you said, not 30 minutes ago, the environment in which an organism grows up in is changing. Therefore, the results are different. And in your particular case, right after that debate or conversation, did you go to Logan's show and start calling him Ass Lickalees again?
Hold on. I personally have experience. I will address what you're saying, but there's somebody saying something about me in the side chat. I personally have experience saying hi in chat before, and Aiden go off on me saying 100% of everything he said about me was 100% false, and it had nothing to do with anything. What? Maybe I'm just reading. Hold on, I'm going to reread that. I personally have experienced saying hi in chat before, and Aiden go off on me saying 100% of everything he said about me was 100% false. What?
What?
It had nothing to do with. See, look, like that's just evidence to my claim.
That's not evidence. That's
exactly
anything.
what I'm. Okay, all right, it's an outlier then, but still, I'm going to claim it that way.
Hold on.
You need to make up my mind.
100% of everything that is said about me was 100% false. He's refuting what he's saying. Matter of fact, what Aiden was saying about me was not only false, more than half of what he said was literally polar opposite from truth, meaning literally not figuratively. Exact wording of what he said was literally not figured. What? This is Skylar.
Aiden.
Hold on. So Skylar, is he not in the room right now? I thought that he was in the room, but I guess he's not in the room. What Aiden said was saying about me was not only false. Yeah, Mark did say that, Skylar, and I have no problem still backing up that fact. Like, Mark had no problems telling me that you badmouth Jesus all the time when you two lived together. He complained about it to me all the time. He was saying that it was straining your two's relationship and that he's getting tired of constantly having to defend the Bible and Jesus around you. Those are his words, and yes, I took his word for it. And I used that to extrapolate my opinion of you. I clarified that with you, and you still do not seem to be satisfied with that explanation. But that is a truthful recounting of what happened, and if you doubt that, go talk to Mark about it. Because he will tell you the exact same thing. I have nothing to hide here, Skylar. I lay myself bare before you about what happened there, and you still seem to be incredibly bitter about it. Badmouth Jesus is way fucking not what you said. That is what I said! That is what I said. I said that you badmouthed Jesus and that you said that he was a false prophet and all of that. Like you were saying extremely offensive things about Jesus in Mark's eyes. That's what he told me. Okay? That's what happened. Okay, so I don't really know what more you want from me besides me telling you what happened. There's room in here now, it seems. Creationist Crybaby did not get to
Aw,
say anything, fortunately. I'm
sorry.
sorry, Creationist Crybaby. It was just inopportune timing. I really do apologize.
That's
You
alright.
can
We'll
come in here
forgive you.
though, Skylar. Come in here, dude. I've got nothing to hide. I ain't running from anything.
Claude?
So to surmise, you're
You were
telling
saying
me
something
that
earlier, Dustin, yes.
you're saying that rap change in one form of, I guess you would call it life form, is different from another, even though we're all really related. I mean, I think that's the crux of my issue when you say that you can have stagnation in one form of evolution, but not but have rapid change in another when we're all supposed to come from one singular source, right?
Well,
I
we
mean,
all came
I
from a
have a
common
hard time.
ancestor, but
Common
did that
ancestor,
common
singular
ancestor?
source. I
Well,
mean,
no, no, I'm not
you're
even trying.
splitting
I'm not even
hairs
trying.
now.
No, I'm not. I wasn't. I thought that you said common ancestors, so I was going off of what I thought that you said. I wasn't even trying to split hairs. I wasn't even beginning to make my point before you cut me off. The point I was trying to
No,
make
actually, you cut
was
me
that
off. I wasn't even done speaking.
when a common ancestor, you're actually correct about that. I'll yield that to you. Um, when a common ancestor does not set a specific timer on make sure that you change based on the environmental factors at this one particular time. So I don't see how us sharing a common ancestor has any actual bearing on differentiation that's found in special change.
Well, then that's evidence that would suggest that we're not all from a singular common ancestor,
How?
wouldn't you
How is
say?
that answer? No, I don't.
'Cause
I disagree with that.
Well, then you can't have both sides of the damn pie. Okay, you got to leave me a slice because you're not right there. You can't. Those two ideas are antithetical to each other. You can't be from the same source and have different results.
Yes, you can. What are you talking about? You
No,
can absolutely be from the
that
same
doesn't make sense.
source and then evolve to form different environmental niches. And then when
Oh
that
dear God!
environment changes, no. Oh my
What
gosh.
different environment? What different environment? What different
Okay.
environment? There's only one
So,
planet. There's
yeah,
only one
there
planet.
is one
Okay.
planet, but would you not agree that the environment that you find at the Arctic Circle is ever so slightly different than the environment that you'll find on the African savanna? Like, do you not agree that those two different places are slightly different in a couple different aspects, even though it's on the same planet?
In the respect of maybe climate and the respect of
That's what I'm
temperature and the
talking about.
respect, but that doesn't. But if that was the case, okay, then why do you find a singular organism that evolved into multiple that didn't stick to a singular region? Instead, it spread out.
It didn't stick to a singular region because it had other regions available to it where there was
That doesn't make sense. You are contradicting yourself.
No, I'm
you
not.
really are.
How am
No.
I not
Yeah,
contradicting? We're
if an
talking about a
organism,
Precambrian ocean, right? We're talking about a Precambrian ocean on the Earth, right? This is where the first single cell is proposed to have come from. You have literally all of the rest of the ocean on the planet to exploit. At that point, you have all the rest of the ocean available to you because there's no other life anywhere else in the ocean. You literally have all of the rest of that on the planet available to you to take up that space and to filter feed in this particular area or to collect energy via photosynthesis at the top of the ocean or to exploit that through predation in the midsection of the ocean. Like, there is plenty of space in a Precambrian world for a single cellular organism to have mutated ancestors that went to go on and exploit those different parts of the world, because there was different like hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor is a great example of basically a free energy source that was not exploited until after the first single cell came about. That was a niche that did not exist before, that life came in and created.
That is pure speculation. You don't know at what point whether or not an organism could have evolved to exploit one niche of energy. That was actually your argument like almost an hour ago. You are contradicting yourself. You really are. About an hour. You're
I
about
think
an
you're just
hour out.
confused about what I'm saying. I
No,
really don't.
I'm really not. I'm really not. You're saying, right? Like I'm trying to eliminate all these little pockets of what you call isolated environments because there's no such thing. That
There
doesn't
absolutely
exist.
is.
No, there isn't. It
Okay,
doesn't exist.
so
You
so
have
you're
you
so
have
the
one environment, right? You have different niches in this quote unquote environment, but those boundary lines are not a boundary to life. There's life in every environment.
so the
Okay?
Deccan.
So if you're
when you're looking at like
can I finish what I'm saying?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can.
Okay. And you're telling me that this life is contingent on the availability of resources. Okay, right? And those resources are
the diversity of life.
okay. You know, very clearly, I'm not going to be able to finish what I'm saying.
I just wanted to
So
clarify
I'm just gonna.
the diversity of life. That's all I wanted to say, and I was going to let you continue.
There are no boundaries to life that we know of on this planet. We're finding bacteria in old underneath radioactive piles they're. My issue with the whole premise that you're saying that we came from a singular organism is that if that was the case, there would be no reason to mutate, right? Like, can you explain to me why a prokaryote decided to become a eukaryote and how it decided to make the structural changes in the mitochondrial DNA so that the different aspects of the Y chromosome could be exploited for different RNA messenger ribosomes and the helix for which we all are designed from. There is no actual answer for that. So my argument is that evolutionists jump to a conclusion and then they find the evidence to fill it in. They're not following evidence.
Dustin.
Well, we make hypotheses, right? That's like a necessary part of the scientific method is to make a hypothesis and then to experiment and see whether or not it fits that hypothesis. So yes, of course, scientists and evolutionary biologists are going to make an assessment about the evidence they have in front of them. Like you would agree that the amount of information that Charles Darwin had at his disposal is very small in comparison to the amount of information that we have available to us now, right? So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I can imagine, with the advent of computers and the accessibility of it.
Logan's trying to
Let
contact
Logan-
you guys,
let
and he
Logan
can't hear
Yeah,
anything.
Okay.
I tried to give the floor to Logan.
Go ahead, Logan.
Sorry, I just want to hear what Crybaby would like to say.
Well, I'll let these guys go at it a little bit more as long as they keep it to an hour.
No guarantees, Crybaby. No guarantees.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'll let Dustin
Okay,
finish.
so look, we ended up here, right, at this point, where babies are generally locked in with the genome that they're born with. Okay, so at some point in the past, you're telling me that a prokaryote and a eukaryote decided to split. Well, in order for that to happen, all the structural change has to happen. And in order for that to happen, there has to be knowledge in the form of information for the prokaryote to exploit to become a eukaryote.
I would just like to respond with, based on the knowledge I know of evolution, and especially of mutations, I would have no doubt in my mind, especially given the huge chasmous span of time between the first evidence we have of life on this planet and the Cambrian explosion, that there were innumerable examples of genetic mutations which were analogous to eukaryotic life that were not able to actually, either they were not able to reproduce, or they themselves were so catastrophically different and were not able to remain adaptive that they themselves just died out within a singular generation. Like, I have no doubt that eukaryotic or multicellular life had multiple points in time where it tried to get started before the time it actually worked. It just took an extremely long, and I bring up a long amount of time because you need a profound amount of generations of this bacteria that we're talking about here, these single cellular organisms, to actually make that huge of a gap, like to actually cross that huge of a chasmatic gap, which is why I think we see that big of a time between the first life on Earth and the Cambrian explosion, because it needed that long to finally get the formula right, so to speak, and to actually be able to maintain itself over multiple generations.
Time is your god.
That's right. That's right. That is basically what I said there, Creationist Crybaby. I said you sprinkle a little bit of the time sauce on there, and it just makes everything all right, you know?
All you got to do is look at the trees to know that the Bible's true.
So if we compare the insects that have to go millions of years without any morphological changes to mammals, we'll say aviation, what's that word? Pheasants, what's that word?
Lavatory?
No.
I'm trying to think of the word myself here. I'm sorry, Dustin. I'm not
You know what I'm trying to say, don't you? You know what I'm trying to say,
I
right?
get what you're saying. Yes, I understand
Okay,
the spirit of what you're saying.
So we have examples of extreme morphological change, and then we have examples of extreme stagnation. And the reality is there's no real explanation for the difference, right? Genes don't even have ancestry. You can't say that it's a genetic memory from some previous animal, right? Like there's, in my opinion, that's a glaring issue for this quote unquote evolutionary theory.
I'm sorry, my fiance just walked in with photos of Scooby now that he's got a haircut, and I was just admiring how cute he looks. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take away from what you were saying. As far as different proliferations of different species are concerned, the reason why I keep bringing that up to you is because, like, the dragonfly is an example that you gave, right? Yeah, the dragonfly as a species has remained relatively stagnant over time, but I would be quite surprised if I were to put into Google right now, are there any genetic ancestors of the dragonfly that have since split off from its genus? And there was just no results found whatsoever. Because, yeah, as a singular species, we're talking about a stagnation, quote unquote, but you're hyperfixating on one little thread in a absolutely gigantic tapestry. You know, like you're trying
well,
to,
let
you're
me
trying to
ask
look
you
at the
this then.
singular thread, and you're trying to say, well, this thread doesn't line up with how I
No.
want it to, and you won't realize that the tapestry correlates with that thread perfectly.
No, I realize that the tapestry and the thread belong together. I just don't think the tapestry is well suited to the reality of the situation, because you're telling me that there's split offs from the dragonfly, right? So then why isn't the common ancestor between monkeys and humans still alive today? What made them go extinct?
The common ancestor of monkeys, so you'd say like Australopithecines or something like that?
Well, I mean, that's your theory on where it split off, but we still haven't seen the evidence.
I'm just trying to ask for like a specific species.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't know, because I don't know what species it was that the monkey and the human split off from. Like, I'm still trying to find that out.
Well, I would say that the reason why they're likely not around is the same reason why over 90% of all of the species that we catalog on this planet through the fossil record are no longer around. It was likely
except for dragonflies. Except for
they're part of the 10%.
Right?
They're part of the 10%.
Oh,
that does not rule out the other 90%.
Rescue. That is such a rescue device. I'm gonna
How
find.
Is that a rescue?
Well,
oh
I
my
mean,
gosh, we're part of the 10%.
No, that doesn't make sense either, because we split off, didn't we? And there's no split offs from us, right? But supposedly you say that it's possible you'd split off. You know, in other words, there was a
there was a speciation.
Right. Split off, speciation, whatever. The bigger picture here is that you're telling me it's possible for dragonflies to have a split off, but we haven't seen it in humans. We haven't seen it in dragons, or not in tigers. We haven't seen it in. I mean, matter of fact, we still don't even know what common ancestry cats came from.
We see it in
There
salamanders.
are glaring, huge holes.
We see it in
in these.
salamanders.
What we see? What
speciation?
In salamanders? I'm gonna have to see. Can you bring up the example? Can you show me a picture?
Sure. Here, just give me a minute here. I'll go find it. Yeah, just 1 minute.
I never heard no mention of the ice canopy in all this talk.
Yeah, the firmament.
Okay,
or
hold
whatever.
on, Claude. Claude, go ahead. Show me the ancestor that split off and made humans and monkeys. Please, if it's so settled and you have the argument so well underhand, show me that ancestor. Show me a picture. Show me a skeleton. Show me anything that shows the split off from monkey and human. The genetic
And why
mutation.
don't monkeys turn into humans today? That's what I said in what, fifth grade.
Why don't monkeys turn into humans? because no monkey directly became a human, Skylar. Because there was
It's
never
a good question.
There was never a chimp that just suddenly decided that they were going to be a human one day. You know,
Which proves evolution not true. I mean,
yeah,
if
because
they-
that's what evolution says, that a monkey became a person.
it does.
Why aren't
Evolution says
chimps
that-
using computers?
That's such a myopic view of evolution. I might as well say that, you know, like I could take an incredibly myopic view of your religion as well, but that doesn't mean
Oh,
that
don't
it's
go
true.
there. Come on, man. Why do you got to go personal?
But no, I'm
That's
using
just
that as
more-
an example. I'm using that as an
But
example.
it's a personal
because-
example.
No, it isn't. Is Judaism
Yeah.
a personal example as a religion? I don't think
For
that
Skylar
it is.
it is.
I don't
For
think that
Skylar it
I don't
is.
think that me
I'm-
comparing. I don't
I-
think that me comparing.
I mean, I
taking
don't
a
want to speak for
myopic
Skylar.
approach-
Let's
think
take
that's-
I
it
don't
down
want
a
to speak
notch
for you,
here.
man. I'll let you speak
Well,
for yourself, man.
Well, Dustin, what I'll say to both Dustin and Aiden is, Dustin, I appreciate like the defense, but at the same time, I do agree with Aiden. Not against you. What I'm saying is, Aiden's right. It's Judaism, is not me. I don't take that personally, but I mean, I do. Well, I mean, not. He did say, Aiden did say, your religion, and Judaism is my religion, and he is talking about my religion. And the way he said it, I could totally tell he's talking about Judaism, not me. I just happen to be the only Jew that comes on here. So
Yeah, like I'm not trying to go like I would have said the same thing to you about Christianity, Dustin, but that's not because I'm trying to make a dig at you. I'm trying to give an illustrative example that anybody can take an extremely myopic look at. Like if I took a myopic look at Christianity and just oversimplified it to the bone, I would say, wow, look at those cannibals that eat the flesh of their savior and drink his blood every single week at Sunday school. You know, what a horrible thing they do there. They're a bunch of cannibals. But that wouldn't be true. All right, so to take a myopic look at evolution and say, "Oh, well, evolution is just about monkeys becoming people," that's equally ridiculous.
Can I address Claude real quick? Just real quick.
Go ahead.
When any of you achieve something major in science, I'll be more inclined to notice of you. Dude, do me a favor. Who cares about whether or not you take notice? If you're going to come up and say that this is an argument that you can settle easily, bring your evidence, buddy. Let me see the common ancestor that a monkey and a human split off of. Anything, any bone, any single stitch of evidence. Because the reality is, if you make any kind of an achievement in science, then I'll take notice of you. But just shut your mouth. I'm done.
Look, the point I'm simply trying to illustrate to you is I think that from what I've heard of you, try looking at DNA evidence is what Claude said in response. What I'm trying to say to you, though, Dustin, is my impression I'm getting from you is that we all come from a common ancestor from the evolutionary view. You're having issue with that view in the context of special adaptation occurring at different rates across different species. Am I incorrect about any of that?
You're not incorrect, but the order's a little jumbled.
Okay, please clarify to me.
All right. Look, when I was an evolutionist myself, okay, and I fully bought into the idea, how do I put this? The idea was that things progress in a linear fashion from worse to better. That was how I was first introduced. Then I found out that that's not necessarily true. Okay, right? Then I was told about common ancestry and how we were supposed to have split from a common ancestor. But when I asked for the skeletal evidence of said common ancestor, there was none provided. Okay, so these things are issues that have been in my mind from the very, very beginning. If you can't provide for me the skeletal evidence, and there is no DNA, if you're going back millions of years to when they split, there would be evidence of DNA today unless you want to go back on what you said about dinosaurs. So go ahead, try and claim that DNA evidence.
Aiden, let me get in here for a second.
Go ahead, Big Bad Mama.
So we do have transitions between monkeys and humans. We have apes, and then we have all the different hominid species that were, let me finish. We have all the different hominid species that have been found, including Australopithecus, Ramapithecus, Homo erectus, all this line. We have the entire line almost of the human lineage from other ape species that have gone extinct because they were outcompeted or the environment turned against them or what have you. But to say we don't have any transitions between monkeys and humans, that's number one. Number two, even though we don't have complete lineages of every species, you might say cats, for example, we have enough lineages of other species, including horses and whales, and we see a clear line in the fossil record that we found with appropriate age dating and everything of different stages of development from a land-dwelling mammal to a whale. And so we don't have to have every single fossil that you demand, because once we find a fossil, you'll point out two different gaps as opposed to only one gap. It's a never-ending question with you all. I mean, you're not going to accept any evidence whatsoever. Okay.
No, I didn't say that, and I don't think that's fair for you to hoist upon me. I don't think that's fair at all. I think I've been more open-minded than probably most of the guests you've had on here that were against the idea of evolution.
I agree with you there.
Okay. Well, at least as long as we're clear on that. And I'm not demanding complete lineage for every species. I'm asking for a specific example, just one, where the split came from, where monkeys and humans came from. That one singular common ancestor, where is it? There's no evidence for it. You know it as well as I do. That's why you have to go to other examples.
Well, we have paleogenetic evidence that can tell us when that split happened. Now, if we go to the fossil record, and we find something that appears to be transitional, we don't know that that's the exact species that gave rise to humans.
You're contradicting yourself. You're contradicting yourself. If you say you have DNA evidence, then you know. If you say you have DNA evidence, then you have to know, because the DNA tells the truth. But then you're telling me that you don't know.
It's genetic evidence. It's not. I didn't say we had DNA evidence. I said we had genetic evidence.
I believe you said DNA. Well, okay. Genetic evidence would still be based on DNA. That's the bottom line.
You have genetic lines from the species that we have currently living, and we have those. We have.
Why are you going to a different species?
We have ape DNA. We have human DNA, and we can tell based on the differences and similarities in that DNA. So I'm talking about current DNA, not past DNA. So we can tell in differences and similarities in that DNA between humans, apes, and monkeys when we branched off from those different, from the bonobo, from the chimp, from the gorilla, from the orangutan, from the gibbon, from the old world monkeys, etc.
So what you're talking about is genetic markers, right?
Yeah.
And allele frequencies, correct?
Yes.
Okay. There's an issue there. Genes don't have ancestry.
Well, genes aren't living organisms.
Right. So how does a non-living organism genetically develop information? Hello?
How does a living organism not have an ancestor?
No, well, I didn't make that assertion, and you're dodging my question.
You did make the assertion that it was, and you just made the statement earlier that genes don't have ancestors. Then you said that genes are living organisms, and I asked you based off of those two things.
I didn't say genes are living organisms.
That was Big Bad Mama. No, you're right.
Thank you. Thank you.
I didn't say genes that were living organisms.
Yes, you did. I thought that you did.
I kind of think I heard you say that too. I kind of remember you
mentioning genes were living organisms. I said that genes weren't.
Big Bad Mama said no because they are not living organisms.
Oh, okay. I
all right.
They must have said weren't, and I didn't hear the NT at the very end there.
But,
sorry.
But then there's
that's okay.
Like how does a dear God? But so I will accept evidence when you come up with evidence, right? Not assertion and conjecture, which is exactly what you have. You have no evidence of an actual ancestor for which monkeys and humans have split from. And when that day comes, you have made a believer out of me for evolution. I don't necessarily know that would have anything to do with God.
Don't be a believer in evolution. There's nothing to believe in.
I think you misunderstand my meaning when I say that, but
I think he means the colloquial version of belief.
Okay.
But yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, I'm being.
We're friends again. We're friends again. It's all good.
No, I mean, that's what it would take to convince me. Okay, and I don't understand why you're convinced based on the conjecture, because that's really. I mean, when we're getting right down to it, that's ultimately what it is.
But
I have a basis of my conforming to the evolutionary model. Go ahead, Deviant.
Just quickly, you're asking for evidence for where and when this split happened.
Well, no, I'm asking for skeletal evidence of a split.
Yeah.
That's what I'm at. I don't.
Right.
I can't.
Right.
Even if you told me
yes,
it happened millions of years ago.
But here's the issue. The way I see it, at least, evolution is a gradual process where, for example, when paleontologists find new bones, there's always, not always, sometimes it's clear cut, this belongs to this species, but in other circumstances it's not as clear cut, because they are in this moment of splitting, of developing into another not family. Yeah, species.
Well, but we see examples of splits today, right? That was the argument just a little bit ago.
Yeah, I was making the point about salamanders speciating, and I found the thing.
So we have evidence today of splits that we can't prove in the past. That to me it just blares to a contradiction.
If gravity exists now, do you think that gravity existed 100 million years ago, Dustin?
I mean, what's gravity? The only thing you can give me when I ask that is a description of something in a vector or a direction.
That's correct. It's a description of something because we don't have a graviton. That's correct. There's no actual physical graviton, but the force whereby gravity... It's the same with evolution. There's no evolutionium. There's no evolution particle.
Exactly.
Curvature of time and
It's a
space.
process. It's a constantly
Then how are you
ongoing
convinced?
process. We are evolving today. Every child is a part. Every newborn child
Right,
is a
'cause-
part of the evolution of humans.
I'm gonna have to push back there. We see more evidence of diseased children come. What do you mean?
The fact that some people are born with illnesses has nothing to do, says nothing about evolution being either true or false. It has nothing to do with it.
Well, it's based
Because
off the
there-
assumption that things just inherently get better when they evolve, and
Yeah,
that's
and
Dustin.
that's
You were just
evolution.
describing earlier how you know that's not true as far as evolution
Yeah.
is concerned. You were just describing how
Well,
you've
no,
shaken that
but
notion.
then that's not why I'm laughing right now. I'm laughing because you're going to say that evidence of children evolving is not evidence of them getting sick, right? You're saying that they're divorced, and the reality is if evolution is evidence of either
No,
change or
was
progress.
That was not what
Never
I
mind.
was going to say. I'm just
I know it
trying
wasn't.
to.
I know it wasn't,
Sorry?
but that's my argument. I know it wasn't what you were going to say. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that you say that evidence of evolution is progress, but anything that would be
But
considered
no,
non-progress.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. And I haven't said that as far
Well,
as I know.
then what
I've
are
not
you
said those
saying?
words.
Because I'm lost.
I'm
if you're trying to say
saying,
something to me, I'm lost.
if you don't talk and let me talk, I think you might hear what I'm saying. Okay? What I'm talking about is the issue of pointing to an exact moment where we can see this split into a different species way back in time has to do with evolution being a gradual process. And the fact that we have seen in salamanders today, this split, doesn't negate that it has happened earlier, because
That is
already
that is completely that is in complete contradiction to itself.
We already know that the further back in time we go, the sparser the skeletal remains will be, or the fossilized remains will be.
That is completely contradictory to it.
No,
we have splits today, but it was different back then. We have splits today. We see evidence.
I didn't say it was different back then. I didn't say it was different back then. I say
so. What are you saying?
She's saying that she's saying the force that causes that split to happen exists just as much so today as it did 100 million years ago. The same way
so where's the split?
Gravity exists just as much today as it did 100 million years ago.
Yes.
So
and
where's the
when
split?
you ask where is the split, that's the next part. And that is where I talk about.
But you guys,
no, listen, you can't ask me a question. You can't ask me a question, and the moment I'm trying to answer it, you cut in. Because then I
Seems
can't
to be the way people treat me around here.
I'm sorry. I don't want to treat you like that. If I have, I apologize.
Can I ask Dustin a question?
We don't see or have that exact evidence, that exact point, that skeleton that shows that, has in part to do with the fact that the further back in time we go, the sparser the material becomes. So it's possible that we won't ever find that material because it could have been crushed up. It could have
then you don't have
deteriorated.
Evidence.
But
then
listen,
you don't have evidence. I'm listening.
But listen, if you have, as I said, evolution is a process. It's a, let's call it,
not a map, a description of, these are not the perfect words, you have to excuse me, of change over time, population change over time. That process, just like other processes like the water cycle, gravity, mathematics, even though that's man-made, but still, let's not go down that rabbit hole. We know that 1 stone plus 1 stone today is 2 stones. And we have tried that enough times to know that the same thing happened even when there were no stones. I know it's a ridiculous comparison, but never mind. I'm ridiculous, so that's fine, I guess.
I
That's
understood
how
you.
we know. If I drop, what did you say?
I said I understood you.
Oh, good, good.
Can you surmise it for me then, Big Bad Mama?
Yeah,
Well,
please.
she's saying the further you go back in the past, the Earth's tectonic plates are continually recycling. You're not going to find the exact fossils that you want all the time, because as you get older, the rock layers that those fossils were in aren't going to exist anymore. They're going to be melted, they're going to be crushed, what have you. So, but yet you do see current examples like the salamander, and I don't know if it's the axolotl or which salamander they're discussing, but it leads me to what I want to ask you, Dustin, is do you think all the current species that exist on the planet were on Noah's Ark, or was there speciation after the flood?
Why are you going to Noah's Ark? This isn't about
I'm just
Noah's
asking
Ark.
you. I'm just asking you a question because your worldview involves Noah's Ark and speciation after the flood. So I just want to ask if you believe in speciation after the flood, macroevolution, basically, or do you believe that all the species that were on the planet, all the different types of cats, dogs, whatever, were on the ark with Noah?
I mean, that's a great attempt to shut down a conversation by changing the subject and.
We're talking about speciation. We're talking about speciation.
Yeah, no, you're talking, but that doesn't have anything to do with Noah's flood.
Well, you don't want to defend your own worldview about speciation, but yet you're nitpicking.
If that's the kind of conversation we're having, it is the kind of
conversation we're having.
No,
because
that's the kind of conversation you're trying to turn it into. Look, we were
Well,
talking about evolution. I didn't bring anything up as far as God
I'm talking about evolution post-flood, which creationists believe in. Do you believe in evolution post-flood?
You're bringing something up in order to shift my position so that I have to defend it from a different theological point.
Well, I'm just asking you a question.
That's not the position that I've taken here, and I'll answer your question, but it's not relevant to the conversation. And it's a tactic that I don't very much appreciate because it wasn't something I was bringing up. Okay,
well,
but if you want to bring that up and then you want to try and weaken my argument by bringing up a trope and allowing for a colloquialism to take control over the main course of the conversation, we can do that, right? But the reality is that you're just trying to shift me off of my main point, which is there is no common ancestor.
You did that to me earlier.
Monkeys. No, I didn't bring up religion.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yes, you absolutely did. If we go back in the conversation and if you rewind
I did.
We were,
Aiden.
No,
yeah,
actually,
that wasn't me.
it wasn't. No, it wasn't actually. We can go back. I'm talking about another example.
I believe you brought up a religion first out of everybody here. Yeah, when you told Skylar, let me talk because you brought up the evolution first. You're not evolution. Yeah, I did, and I'll stand by that. But the reality is that you brought religion into the conversation before anybody else.
else did. You were the first one to bring religion into the conversation.
I
So
wasn't
don't come
actually. You were the first one. You were the first one that invoked it, and I can go back and prove
No, I
that.
didn't.
Because you were the one
Go
that
ahead.
said, yes, you did. When we were talking
Go
about
ahead.
evidence, when we were talking about evidence and standards of evidence, you out of left field invoked Jesus Christ by saying, well, you don't believe that is a standard of evidence, or you do believe that is a standard of evidence, but you don't believe that Jesus Christ rose from the dead 3 days later. You
Was
brought
that
that up
before?
out
That's
of left
true.
Was
field
that
earlier in the
was
conversation.
that before?
Yes,
Was
I am
that
almost
before
certain.
or after
Almost certain.
Skylar? Was that before or after Skylar? And even then, I didn't remain on that line of
That
topic.
doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. You are trying to
Oh,
call
it
Big
doesn't
Bad
matter.
Mama out on
It
shifting the
doesn't matter.
conversation. No, you're trying to call Big
All
Bad
right.
Mama out on shifting
All
the
right.
conversation.
All right.
And
If
I'm
that's the
calling you out
ruling,
on doing the same earlier. You did the
if
exact
that's the
same earlier.
ruling, if that's the ruling that we're gonna go with here, I'm gonna turn that into a practice standard, and every time you do it, I'm gonna call you out on it.
Well, Dustin, we're
This could
talking
just be
about branching and speciation, right?
right. That has nothing to do with Noah's flood.
Of course it does, because you
No,
either
no,
believe in a
no.
hyper post-flood speciation, or you believe that every species on the planet was on the ark. And I just want to know
Look,
which one. It's a pretty simple question.
If the conversation had started out about religion, I would grant you your premise.
But
Okay,
since,
I understand where you're
these
going
things
with that,
goes
but
into
you
your
are
religion.
you are hindering progress of my questioning and pointing out any inconsistency by dragging things up that are irrelevant.
No, it's not.
I haven't done
We're
that.
having a Socratic dialogue.
I haven't
right
done
now.
that.
We're
I
having a
haven't
Socratic
done that.
dialogue right now.
Yeah, well, then I'm dialoguing the fact that I disapprove of the tactic. You can
it's not
argue
a
any point of
tactic.
view that you want. It's exactly
it's an
what it
honest
is.
question.
If it's your
No,
belief, you
it's a
should be
tactic.
proud to state it. And what happened after Noah's Ark? What happened to
I
the
certainly
animals?
could, but it wouldn't be relevant to this
Yes, it
conversation.
would. It's inherently relevant,
How?
Dustin, because, okay, let me explain. Wait.
Go ahead.
Let me have the floor. Let me explain. Okay. Are we engaging in a Socratic dialogue right now, Dustin?
I believe that we are shifting from a Socratic dialogue to a prosecution, but sure.
I disagree. A Socratic dialogue is a dialogue wherein the positions of both parties are both examined and both scrutinized. You are trying to make it like if Plato and Socrates were talking, but every time Plato tried asking what Socrates' position was, he goes, no, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about your position. That's not what a Socratic dialogue is. A Socratic dialogue is where the points and the validity of both sides are brought forward and scrutinized against one another. Because you can sit here and criticize an idea all you want all day long, but if you don't have an idea of your own to prop up in exchange of that, then it's just criticism for criticism's sake.
What is your model?
You want me to present a model? I'm not a scientist. I don't have a model. Okay. I'm trying to understand. I'm trying. No. Look,
go ahead.
Listen to me. Listen to what I'm saying. Okay. I don't have a personal model. I'm not out there digging in the bones trying to prove one way or another. I only am present, and I have to go with the best evidence that I have at hand. I am pointing out the inconsistency from which your side of the argument has, and that I have a problem with. You have no answer for said inconsistency. So if we want to shift the dialogue and try and say that the conversation is equal on both ends based on the idea that evidence is equal and both ideas cancel each other out, well then all you're doing at this point is turning it into a prosecution and trying to say that my idea is impossible, and that the basic comparison between impossible and possible means that your information is the correct information, and that's not necessarily true.
How can you try and sit here and try to opine us for prosecuting you when by your own by your own standards of what prosecution is, you've just spent the last hour plus being a prosecutor. You have been the one that's been sitting in the prosecutor's chair, and you're uncomfortable with the fact that we've gone and spun it around, and now you're the one sitting in the defense chair. But
I told you, I'm fine with that.
No, you're not.
I'm fine with that. But the reality, no, I absolutely am. I absolutely am. If we're switching the dialogue of the conversation, we can do that. But it
That's not
seems like you
switching
guys
it.
just went and did it. That's kind of what it did. Like,
Oh my gosh.
because Big Bob Mama comes out of the left field with a conversation piece that hadn't been introduced before called Noah's Flood.
Unlike
Okay,
you, when
that
you
in my mind is a
introduced Jesus'
tactic.
resurrection. That was
I
different.
just ask you to explain the current biodiversity on the planet using what model you accept. What is the model that you accept?
I'll get to that. Let me
Well, why
finish.
don't you just
Let me make my
why do
final
you have
comment.
to why do you have to keep going
Let me
around and
make
around
my
and around?
closing. I will. I'll go exactly where you want me to, but allow me to make my closing statement.
Well, it doesn't have to be a
If we're
closing
changing
statement.
conversations, well, because we're changing conversations now.
No.
We're going from
It's the
evolution.
same conversation.
Yeah.
We're talking about biodiversity.
It's really not. Well, you're including a new topic, and it changes
Nope.
the conversation.
No,
No.
it's not a new topic.
No.
Yes.
It's
And
yours.
I didn't bring
it's
that
your
up.
side. It's your side of the story. We've given our side of the story for the last hour, and now we want to hear your side of the story. And that's fair.
Well, you can read the Bible. You don't have to.
Let me finish. Aiden just summarized it perfectly with his Plato-Socrates analogy. And I couldn't say it any better than that. You want to give a one-sided view by nitpicking science and the scientific discoveries, and yet
that's what I'm doing.
And yet you don't want to give the model that you accept for biodiversity on the planet.
Well, it's far easier to criticize than it is to actually stand up for your side of things. It's
which is why you want to switch the topic of conversation from where you're
because we've been
uncomfortable to
running
where
away
I'm
from you,
uncomfortable.
right, Dustin? The last hour that we've been spending trying to give you.
Oh yeah, that's the
for.
claim that I'm making right now. That's the claim that I'm making.
No, it
right
really
now
does
you've
kind
been
of
running.
seem that way based on how you're talking about
It
this.
seems
You just
that
want to
way.
switch the conversation. Dustin, we have been doing nothing but comprehensively responding to everything that you've been saying for the last hour.
No, if you had, I should be convinced by now.
No, that's not true at all. Just because somebody has comprehensively explained something to you doesn't mean that you'll just be convinced. If I read the entire Quran,
That's the whole point of being comprehensive.
That's not
That's
true.
the
If
whole
I
point
read
of being
the
comprehensive.
entire Quran to you right now, Dustin, would you?
If I should be able to comprehend what you're saying, and your evidence is so airtight and locked, and it's been settled, I should be convinced right now.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the answers that we've provided to your questions have been comprehensive in their explanations. That does not mean that we're saying it's inherently the truth. You're putting those words in our mouths. All I'm saying is that we have amply talked about the points that you have brought up in this discussion, and you're trying to act like it's somehow this big affront that now that we have comprehensively analyzed that we're turning that lens towards you and trying to analyze some of the points that you've made. Like that notion that you just gave.
I didn't make any points.
If it's comprehensive,
I didn't make the one point. Look, the one point I did make was that if we're accepting evidence with missing bits and pieces and making a jump conclusion that evolution is the reality, right? That it would be just as valid for me to make the same conclusion about the I'll make one caveat.
What?
Okay, but the other end of the equation, you guys still have yet to provide the precursor that allows for the split between monkeys and humans. That is an answer you don't have. It's not a critique. It is a legitimate question and a crucial piece. It would be
you're asking about the precursor.
Can I finish, please? That's always what I've been asking for. That's always what I've been asking for. I wanted to see the animal that the precursor, the animal, the thing that split, that brought about the existence of monkeys and humans.
That's not the precursor.
Oh, what is the precursor?
Comes before the split. The precursor.
Okay, I apologize.
The precursor is evolution, basically.
I apologize for stumbling over my vernacular. Okay.
It's okay. I just wanted to clear it out.
Well, no, I after this conversation, I should probably go find myself a gulag. That's beyond the point.
Go find yourself a gulag.
Well, because I feel like I'm being convicted of some horrible.
Oh my God, you're so persecuted. You're so persecuted.
I kind of feel that way.
Aiden, let me talk for a second. Dustin, I just asked you a question, and I just wanted your explanation in a paragraph. What is the model that you accept for biodiversity on the planet? Now, you can talk about us shifting the topic or what have you, but can you just answer that?
Well, I can you accept that.
You're roboting.
Yeah, you're roboting really badly right now, Dustin.
Can you hear me better? Hear me? Hello, 1, 2,
No.
3, 1, 2, 3.
No.
Really bad.
You are all sorts of tripping out.
Maybe try leaving and rejoining, Dustin. I don't know. It's.
Oh,
I could hear that. I could hear you say that.
Okay, you can hear me now?
It's better.
Kind of. Yeah,
Much
it's
better.
way better.
Okay. Look, like I said, I didn't come here trying to tell you that you're wrong. I'm looking for evidence for why you're right. Okay? Now, you guys can sit here and claim that I'm ridiculous for my beliefs, but my beliefs do not judge or do not dictate what my scientific mind holds, thinks, and deduces. Now, you come up with legitimate evidence for a common ancestor, or for I want to say precursor, but that's not the proper word, for the split, that skeletal evidence, then maybe you can convince me. But even then, you still have a long road ahead of you to convince me that there was no God involved. Okay, so
But we have. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
Well, I'm still waiting for just the answer to my question.
I just gave you the answer. I said I conform
No.
to the biblical view.
And what
Which
is the
is?
biblical view?
You want me to elaborate what the
Because
biblical
there are
view is?
several.
That Jesus,
There are several.
that
No,
God.
Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark.
Oh, well, then, I mean.
I asked about Noah's flood and the biodiversity of animals on the planet. It had to come from Noah's Ark.
Conform to the biblical view. If you're asking for me to come up with some evidence, I wouldn't know where to even begin, because I wouldn't know what you would accept. But
what is your view on what the Bible's view is on this?
Anything about
why are you asking me to explain what I've read in the Bible and why it would make any difference to anybody else? What difference does that make as to whether or not evidence?
In the creation community, Dustin, is there a diversity of opinion on creation and biodiversity, or is there only one opinion?
There's a diversity of opinions in every community.
Okay, so the Bible alone is not a sufficient answer to what you're being asked here, because if it was sufficient, then there would not be.
But what you're trying to do is get me persecuted for having a difference of opinion.
No, I'm not.
No,
you're not.
well, that's a possibility. Then can you
None
at
of
least
us are.
acknowledge the
And
person?
none
Can
of
you
us
at
have
least
mocked-
can you
none of
at
us
least
have
acknowledge the
mocked your
possibility
religion.
that if I answered your question with the wrong answer, that I might find persecution in the future? And
I
that's
think you
maybe
would
something
find
I'm trying to.
criticism.
Criticism.
You can't give a wrong
persecution,
answer.
criticism.
It's your opinion.
I'm trying to avoid it regardless. It's
Why?
not something that I find comfortable, because it's not something that I find comfortable.
You've been subjecting us to that exact thing for the last hour, so sorry that you're not comfortable, but if
Not
it's
really
the heat's too hot,
subjecting
then
you.
get out of the kitchen.
I haven't been forcing you to do anything. I haven't been subjecting
I
you to
never
anything.
said that
And
you
the
forced
reality,
us, but we're not forcing you to do anything either, Dustin. Like, you're really getting ultra defensive right now, even though we're basically subjecting you to exactly what you did to us. That's what's going on here, and you're climbing up.
Not exactly. There's more of you, and you guys are taking more of a bullier position. You
Oh
guys
my
keep
gosh,
on,
Dustin,
yeah.
how many times have I gone on Proverbs, guys, and argued with like 5 creationists simultaneously?
How many times have I defended you?
How are we?
How many times have I defended
we
you?
are trying to answer your questions.
I acknowledge
that
but
bullying?
You didn't answer
then
them.
You shouldn't
but
ask
you didn't.
questions.
No,
That's
I asked the question before you started bullying. Okay, then all right. I guess I'm wrong all the way around. You know what? Here, I'll do it this way. Okay, from here on in, you guys write down in a book what I should think, feel, and say. Right, that way I'm right the next time.
No.
Oh my goodness.
I have not said nor implied any such thing. I have not mocked your religion at any point. I have only tried to answer your questions to us. And I can't think of a single example where either Big Bad Mama or even Aiden, who can be a rascal sometimes, has mocked your religion during this conversation. We have tried to answer your questions. That is not bullying.
Okay, I'll take your word for it, but that doesn't change my opinion. I just asked a simple
How
question.
do we talk
okay,
to you then so that you don't feel bullied? Because I don't want to be a bully. So how do we
You
talk to
don't.
you when you ask questions?
Could you please explain to us how creation is proper and correct in every way possible, Dustin? Is that how we should approach it from now on? Because that's really that's the vibe I'm getting here. Is that we basically need to grant you that your premise is correct, and if we don't do that, then it's basically just bullying.
When did no, that has nothing to do with this, right? See.
Well, then let me turn the exact same form of logic.
This has become an overlapping train wreck. No, hold on a second.
Let me use the exact logic you used against Lupin yesterday on you, Dustin. What is the actual cause here for your concern and reticence to answer this question?
What is the cause and reticence? The idea that I know that you guys have a predetermined conclusion about my end of the story, and that because it's more easy to make fun of it, that it might end up making me a point of mockery for any individual that might be watching this.
So on
wait, Deviant. Can I just want to take it forward from there.
Sorry.
Okay. I acknowledge what you're saying there, and I can certainly understand from your point of view how that would be a possible outcome. Because, yeah, I'm perfectly willing to admit that I can be a spicy individual sometimes, as Deviant might have said earlier. But, at the same time, she's right. I haven't mocked your religion at all. I haven't mocked Skylar's religion. I haven't mocked anybody's religion over this entire conversation, which is more proof positive that I don't exhibit the trait that you were talking about earlier. But anyways, the point that I'm trying to make to you right here and now is that there's nobody lining up to laugh at you right now, Dustin. Now, we knew that you weren't going to laugh. Hold on. Just let me finish. All right? Even though we have a preconceived notion of what reality is, you also have a preconceived notion of what reality is on the basis of you adhering to an ideology. That's okay.
Which one has the social stigmatism? Which one has the social stigmatism as of now?
I'd say atheism.
Which one is it?
Anything. I would say atheism.
No, that's horse crap.
Oh, do you mean in this conversation? Wait, do you mean in this conversation or in society in general?
There you go. In this conversation.
Oh, in this conversation, yes. Christianity has the stigma because you are the minority in this discussion.
And I'm not even questioning the validity of your evidence. I'm saying I want specific evidence that you can't provide, right? We've already addressed that and we've moved on from there. But the issue that I'm taking with it now is the idea that I have to defend biblical creation. If this was a different mode of conversation, I'd feel more comfortable with that. Okay, but the reality is we went straight from hard evolution into religion, and that's not a real easy transition to make. And like, I've got 3 people to contend with.
Were you asking us to try and make questions?
I'm not trying to pile up on you with 3 other people.
That doesn't matter. Like, the amount of people that are here right now, I don't really see how that's much of a factor to you. That's never gotten in the way of any.
You just agreed to it.
No,
you just agreed to it.
Well, yeah, I agree.
You just agreed to it a few seconds ago.
Hold on. I agree that there's a stigma, but that does not mean that you need to have that stigma hang over your head like a sword of Damocles over the entire conversation, staring up at that sword, worrying when it's going to drop. Don't worry about the sword of Damocles. If it's going to, the whole point of that idiom is that it's going to fall. If it's going to fall, and don't worry about it hanging over your head. It's going to happen whether it's going to happen or not.
I just denounced that. I said I am perfectly fine with defending that position if it was a different conversation. And then I just said that it was a hard transition. Okay?
Yeah, but
I'm
you were
not
asking us
mentally
hard
equipped.
questions.
I am not mentally equipped to jump from that mode of thinking into a religious mindset as quick as maybe you guys would demand. And I might come up with an answer or two, like I keep trying to tell you, would end up landing me in criticism in the future. Like I said, if the
Okay.
setting was different, I would have no problem engaging in a religious conversation with you. But that is not the kind of conversation we were having. We were having a science based conversation, and I was trying to get answers to questions from people that I figure would have been really easy to communicate with.
Well,
But it
Let me
appears.
get in here.
Go ahead,
Let me
Big
get
I
in
get
here
it
for a
Go
much
ahead,
second.
Big
better
Bad
now.
Mama.
I get it much better.
Go ahead, Big
Let
Bad Mama.
me say something here. So, Dustin, a lot of creationists think that the kinds of animals that got off of Noah's Ark created all the species that we see today, including there was one cat kind that then evolved into, through microevolution or whatever you want to call it, into all the cat species we have today. So Kent Hovind will talk about that all the time, and that's what he agrees with. He agrees with hyperspeciation following Noah's Ark. And so I was just
I don't
asking
agree with
you,
that.
okay.
I don't agree with that. Okay, I
So
don't agree with hyperspeciation.
so you don't agree that, you agree that all the species then that we see today their ancestors were on Noah's Ark. So there was a leopard kind, there was a
Here
tiger
it comes.
kind, there was a
Okay, look,
lion kind.
I'm gonna shut this conversation down right here. Okay, I have no
That
proof for that. Okay, and there's no point in going any further because all you're doing is mocking and ridiculing me at this
I'm
point.
not
You're not.
mocking.
He's
Dustin,
not
Dustin,
mocking you, Dustin. Oh my gosh, for crying out
Dustin,
loud, dude.
This is your belief. I just want you to say what it is.
all of you.
I can
I want
say
to
what it
say,
is. I don't want to say it right here, right now, because I will be mocked and
You
I
know
will
what,
be
Dustin?
ridiculed and I
Let
will
me
be
give you.
criticized.
I
Let me
want
give
to
you a
say
closest dose
something.
of what you. Go ahead, DV.
I want
Go
to
ahead.
Hold
say
on a second.
something.
Have I mocked any of
Dustin,
you in this stop. Have I mocked any of you? Have I gone out of my way to try and make you feel uncomfortable about any of your beliefs?
I don't think you've mocked any
Have
of
I
us.
done that?
No.
no.
Okay, I feel mocked. I feel like you guys are trying to make me ridiculed over my beliefs. I don't appreciate
Okay,
it. It wasn't a
listen.
part of the conversation. No, let me finish. It wasn't a part of the conversation. It didn't need to be brought up. It was a scare tactic to try and get me to change the conversation. I don't appreciate it. And with that, good day.
Okay,
Oh
okay,
my goodness!
Dustin.
Wow! Wow!
Fuck you.
Wow!
I want to tell him that I understand his position, and he won't even let me say that, so I
You
can
know
say
what?
I'm sorry.
Okay, you know what, Dustin? I don't know if you're still listening, but I'm sure you're going to listen afterwards. You were pretty, I'm not going to say that you ever mocked us, but you were pretty hard line about your extrapolations of our positions based on what we were saying. So let me give you a dose of that exact same medicine and extrapolate on what you were saying. I think the reason why you're so reticent to do this is because you recognize that your side of this argument is weak. You know that there is hardly any actual substance to it as far as evidence concerned, if any actual evidence at all, and you feel uncomfortable by the weakness of your side of this argument. So you don't want to get into it, not because you don't want to be mocked, but because you don't want your ideas to be torn apart in a way that is just as objective and scientific as the ones that you employed on us. You just explained how you never mocked any of us, and yet you're saying that you felt mocked and couldn't elucidate a single example. Let me just harp that home one more time. A single example. The person who is just harping on this stream about show me a single example of evidence about this transitional fossil, this same person could not demonstrate a single actual example of evidence of where we were mocking him. He just said he felt mocked. Well, that's great that you felt that way, Dustin. But the fact of the matter is that's not what we were doing in this conversation. And anybody besides you that watches this will get that same impression, at least I feel, because there's no point in this conversation. Please find me a clip, Dustin, where we mocked you and we ridiculed you, I don't think that that's the real reason, Dustin. I'm being real with you right now, man to man. I don't think that's the real reason why you were so reticent to have that conversation. I think you know that your point of view on this is weak. Okay, that's just the God's honest truth from me to you, man to man, no bullshitting. That's my point on this. Go ahead,
If I
Claude.
can get a word in, I've gone on off stage because it was full, and it was probably better than I was because I'm a bit like a red rag to a bull with Dustin. But you were simply asking a question for his side of things to try and restrict the discussion to the topic that he chooses to be discussed, and is just simply ridiculous. And also, I would point out that nobody was cruel or in any way derogatory towards him today at all. In fact, you bent over backwards to listen to his continued repeating the same thing and the arguments of Mr. Ovent. So I think, you know, what it does, you are quite right. It indicates a certain insecurity, and that we might, for example, say that Noah's Ark is a fairy tale in which he believes. We didn't even get a chance to, even if we wanted to say that, we didn't say it. We didn't get a chance, and if we listen to the show on the Proverbs Guy, which he participated in, yesterday as being the latest, the mockery of us terrible evolutionists is incredible, and he's joining in and laughing. So I think he has overly sensitive, and definitely will never defend that. But I was going to have a show later, or it could be on Gangster Ghost channel after Brother Pike, and he can just come on and discuss the evidence for Noah's Ark. So there we go. There's a new one. All right, I'll shut up and let someone else have a turn.
Yeah, what I was trying to say, if Dustin is still listening, had nothing to do with persecuting you or defending why Big Mad Mama asked the question he asked or anything like that. I just wanted to say, after you explained your feelings about being in the minority and the possibility of being ganged up on because you were in the minority with your position, I wanted you to know that I understand and say, I'm sorry that you had that experience, but you didn't even give us a chance or give me a chance to do that. It's okay. It's okay. But maybe next time, try, as we all should all the time, to not go into a discussion with the us versus them mentality on full blast.
Well, not only that, but like anybody here, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I feel like out of everybody on the other side of that argument with Dustin, I was the most aggressive and I was the most forward with him. And even then, I don't think I actually did anything to mock him. So, like, the point that I was trying to make with him was that the validity of your argument, he's a proponent of this himself. The validity of your argument will stand on its own merit. So if Noah's Ark, in the account of the Bible, as he said it was, is true, then no amount of mockery that we throw his way will disprove that. No amount of, oh, ha ha, he, look at him, he's stupid, or any of that, which wouldn't have even happened. None of that, if it is the truth of reality, will overturn that. Okay? So this really, to me, it harkens to a very deep-seated issue I see in some creationists, in that they believe in a religion that says that if you have true faith in that religion, that no words that someone else says will be able to shake you of that, because that faith will be absolute within your heart. They clam up and they get scared, for lack of a better term. I'm sorry, Dustin, but it really did come off that way, that you were scared to come in and actually talk about the other side of the conversation. Mark said something earlier in the conversation about, I'm laughing at Dustin simply because he can't comprehend a two-way conversation. I wouldn't have gone that cruel with that comment, but I do agree with the spirit of it. It was a two-way conversation, and that's what I was trying to illustrate to him. He even himself agreed that it was a Socratic dialogue. So a Socratic dialogue is inherently a two-way conversation. I don't understand it. I guess he's, for lack of a better term, I feel like, honestly, this is just a symptom of him being used to being in an environment like Proverbs guys, where it's just a bunch of people criticizing evolution. And the second it's no longer that, he gets uncomfortable because it's not what he's used to. I'm sorry if that's totally wrong, Dustin, but because you're not here to talk, that's all I can go off of.
Also, for me, I really don't want to, unless someone is a complete asshat to me, I don't want to be like that to them. So when I get accused of bullying, when all I'm trying to do from my perspective is answer questions, I want that explained. I want to understand, what did I say? What did I do for you to say I'm bullying you? Even though he didn't say I personally did it, but he said we all did.
We didn't bully him. That was just his way of getting out of the conversation. And Aiden had it correct.
That really frustrates me. Even so,
well,
when I'm
don't worry,
to...
don't let it worry you. Nothing's ever going to change.
Yeah, that's his way, not you didn't do anything wrong. And so I just asked him a simple question, and I thought it was related to what we were talking about, because we were talking about speciation. And I know Kent Hovind's view on post-flood speciation. And I wanted just to hear what his idea was about it, which I think is fair in a two-sided conversation to have that discussion. And we had just talked for an hour. You guys were talking before I even got here. And so I think it was completely fair to see what his side was. And I didn't bully him, and I don't remember anybody bullying him or mocking his religion. So
this is the same sort of shtick you hear on Proverbs guys about mocking and respect and blah, blah, blah. I'm the one, if anything, that winds up Dustin, and I kept right out of it. So, and when you look, there's some very good comments in the chat. Mark Stoney says, this is the same Dustin who harshly ridiculed Logan on Boland's show, and he just cried for an hour about being persecuted when no persecution is happening. So the standards are just double standards. So we just, I think it makes
Mark is a very
tedious,
insightful person.
show.
Yeah, I'm glad to see Marcus starting to at least participate in the comments again.
Yay!
Starting to come back. We're pulling you back. Cthulhu is regaining his grip upon you, Mark. You thought you could escape the mountain of madness, but it's always just one corner away, my friend.
Mm-hmm. Relay will rise.
That's right.
Yes.
I don't know. Dustin, I just want to say off of all of this that I have a lot of respect for you. I have more respect for you than I easily do for anybody else on that entire panel over on Proverbs, guys, okay? I agree with Big Bad Mama when they said that out of everybody on that panel, you take the most open-minded approach towards evolution. You take you genuinely strike me as somebody that's, like, when you talk about things like alleles and Aleutian and all that stuff, like, what was it? It was atavism and alleles and all of that. That strikes me as somebody that has at least done a decent amount of research on these topics, because he's talking about it like somebody who's at least done a decent amount of research on them. I'm sorry, I'm kind of going in circles. My point being, I respect you for that. But my problem with you, Dustin, you were talking earlier in the beginning of the show about your problem with me. So let me elucidate at the very end here my problem with you. My problem with you, Dustin, is that while I appreciate your passion and emotions towards things, you let it go so far into overdrive that you just fail to see the forest from the trees when it comes to these conversations. You just totally turn on this notion that, well, I'm being persecuted, I'm being bullied, and no matter how much evidence is presented to you that no, that's not the case, how can we make you feel more comfortable? Let's try to understand your point of view as best as possible. It still ended up totally blowing up in the end there. Wow, Big Bad Mama and Claude both filed out of the room. I guess they're scared. They're both scared.
They fear Skylar.
I agree. Dustin is more respected than other
I haven't even
Proverbs guys.
said anything. I've been just lurking, listening. I'm filling out a job application.
Have you
Yeah,
been
that's why we're
entertained by this
jumping on you.
conversation, Skylar? Can I at
No,
least ask
no,
you that?
really.
You've not been entertained by this conversation?
Very literally, no. I've been, yeah, no.
Well, then why are you listening, Skylar? Go get out of here. Get
I'm
boy.
filling out because
Get, boy.
the subject changes often enough that
Get.
it helps, or it helps. The subject changes often enough that it gets to a point eventually when I want to say something. Generally, but you guys have been talking about just weird stuff or stuff
Get.
I'm not interested in.
You get you on gone there, Skylar. Get you on gone, boy.
Well, I came on here, originally. I don't know, whatever. But anyway, it's just the subjects have been not interesting.
Well, I kind of agree, actually.
Big Bad Mama
Partly.
said, Claude, let's do the show on your channel. I agree. I think it'd be good to do it on Claude's channel as well, just simply because it'll give Logan's channel a little bit of a break, and it'll actually allow the content to get a couple of views.
Yeah,
because
I feel bad. The stream yesterday was awesome and hilarious, but that was partly because I've never been so high in my life on laughter. I actually thought I could die. I could die from this.
Sorry.
But I didn't. No, it was great. It was great.
Oh, Big
Then
Bad
there
Mama
were
says,
some contention.
isn't it time for Christian show? Is it time for Christian show?
No, it's
No, at
7:30.
1.
Yeah, it's 7:30, I thought. So that would be 5:30 MST. So we've still got like a good 3 hours plus. Big Bad Mama. Don't worry. We're going to fill all that. No, I'm not. I'm going to get going here pretty soon, just simply because I need to eat. I haven't had anything to eat yet, so yeah, I'll
No
I won't
wonder
sign off
you're in
quite
such a bullying mood.
Oh yes, I'm just hangry. That's what it is. I'm just hangry. I mean, like, even with Lupin, okay? Even with Lupin on the show yesterday, I gave Lupin, in that one moment where he showed through the video that he was being distinct about what he was talking about with Claude, I gave him that. But the problem is that his moment where he did that was buried under like 4 or 5 other lies. My point being, though, just because that was the case, I wasn't any less reticent to give Lupin that when it came up. You can go back and watch that. I said, oh, wow, I guess that is the case. Lupin did say that there. And he tried to go, yeah, you see, so I was right about everything. No, that's not the case at all. But it's illustrative of the fact that I'm willing to, if I genuinely think that you're making a good point or that you're telling the truth, I don't care if it contradicts with my argument, I will give that to you. Because I would like to think that I'm an intellectually honest person. And it comes across as a little bit rude to me when somebody like Dustin goes, no, I don't think you're going to engage with this in an intellectually honest way, because that's basically just a roundabout way of saying, I think you're intellectually dishonest.
Right.
I think you're just going to turn this into a mock fest. And
we have
I would hope
no
that Dustin has
signs.
known people like me long enough. Like, he's known Big Bad Mama, maybe not as long as me. And he's known you less than me for sure, but I would at least hope that he's known all of us long enough to be able to know that that's not what we're interested in doing. The people that we mock are people that are worthy of mockery. And Dustin, in my opinion, is not someone who's worthy of mockery.
We when you have had like a good conversation with someone, heated at times, sure, but still good. And none have shown. That's what kind of sticks. I don't know. Maybe I should just.
Yeah, I think I'm probably going to log off here and probably have a bite to eat before Christian's show and just kind of clear my mind a little bit, because I don't know. I'm hoping that I can maybe call Dustin and talk with him, because I don't want him to come across like I'm his friend, ultimately. Through all of this crap, through everything that's happened here, he's my friend. I respect him, and I don't want him to have come away thinking that we're all just sitting here laughing at his expense now that he's not here anymore. Like, he can go back and watch this. We've been critical, but that's all that it's been, is just criticism.
That's the thing that makes me so frustrated with him just leaving.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I'd much rather resolve things, because I have nothing personally. Sure, I was frustrated when we talked about archaeology, but not like angry. It's just the way I get, because
you're passionate.
The subjects I love. Yeah.
You're passionate about what you're talking about, so of course you're going to take the position of arguing vociferously and passionately for that position.
Yes.
I mean, like, it's like when I was talking about, like, I try to avoid the subject of slavery on Proverbs Guy's show now, because the absolute fucking human degradation that slavery is as an institution just gets me so riled up on just the basis of itself, and the fact that they subtly endorse it through their scripture and say, well, it's okay to have them under these certain circumstances. That is the reason why I try not to bring that up anymore, because despite what they'll say about me, I don't try to go around riling people up. Like, I guess I won't say I've never done that. Let me just clarify. I will never say that I've never done that before. There's definitely times where I've gone in and poked the bear, but you know what? When that does happen, I make sure to let you know about it. I'm not going to sit there and bullshit you and say, I wasn't my intent coming in here. No, if I came in to start shit and stir the pot, I will let you know. I don't need that, I don't need that excised out of me like a demon, like with Lupin yesterday with Dustin. It really did feel that way with how hard it was to get him to admit, yeah, I guess I was just here to start shit.
Also, Steven is the bear?
Yeah. In his heart of hearts, he is a bear. He has a lion on his channel, but we all know it's really a bear that he has in his heart.
You're the best, Logan.
Only after 10 p.m. on Saturdays, though. Anyways. I'll talk with you guys later. I gotta get going. You guys have a good one. Thanks for having us on, Logan. It was another good show. Seriously, this was another slam dunk of a show. These last two shows especially have just been absolutely fantastic. So
I really hope you have had a good time too, Logan. I never want to come on here and like you're forgotten or anything. You're never forgotten.
I'm just glad you're all right from yesterday. Sorry about that.
I am.
All right, you guys take care. Have a good one.
See you later.
Take care. See you.
Are you coming on later too?
Yeah, was it? What did you say? 1:30?
It'll be 1:33.
Yeah.
7:30 here.
Right. I always get confused. I turn things around. But yeah, that's my plan. Stir the pot. Mark. Can we address the irony of Dustin's avatar super predator? Why not being bullied?
What's wrong, Skylar?
Do what now?
What would you say about Noah's Ark?
What about Noah's Ark? What do you mean?
Do you see what they were talking about? What would you say to defend Noah's Ark?
I don't know what anybody's talking about involving Noah's Ark.
Oh, okay.
You have mainly been in the background, filling in your forms.
scholar.
Filling in.
I don't
The
see. I'm
ultimate
even reading the
seeker.
comments. What are you talking about? I'm even reading the comments and see nothing about. Oh my gosh, way the hell down there. Why don't Dustin defend his Noah Ark story? I don't.
So, Big Bad Mama asked, because we were talking about evolution, and Dustin was asking questions, and we were trying to give him answers. So Big Bad Mama asked what his position, whether he believes in what's it called, macro evolution.
Oh, macro evolution.
Yeah, or if he believes that all the animals that are on Earth now were on Noah's Ark.
Mhm.
And that started the downfall of everything. Big Bad Mama stirring the pot. You shouldn't stir the pot. You should gently crush it with your fingers,
So,
like it's a tiny baby. Not a tiny baby. You shouldn't crush tiny babies. That's no good.
so when is the when's Christian Pike? When's Christian
Oh.
Pike gonna be on?
7:30 Eastern Standard Time.
7:30 Eastern. All right.
Yeah.
4:30. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he has a teaching about the goodness of God. Oh, Miss.
Evil.
Oh, yeah.
What were you gonna say, Lauren?
What did you say you want to teach about the Egyptian language?
Okay, so I haven't really decided. But after we talked the other day, I started to think about how do we know what we know? Because I feel any topic that I bring up, you always have to come to that part of explaining how we know these things, and that started to have me thinking about language, and because I love languages, I love words and that sort of thing, and I'm extremely fascinated with the take on language of the Egyptians. So I'm not fully. I was thinking about. I start to watch a university lecture earlier today. I was too tired, so I had to go back all the time, so I stopped watching. But that had me think, I'm going to write down start something and see where it takes me. But I think it will have to be something foundational to give a background, and maybe unless everyone is just like want to throw me out of the window, defenestrate me as it is, I could do other talks because it's such a huge subject. And I unfortunately know myself. It's a bad habit I have. So I know I will start rambling unless I have a clear topic.
Well, let's figure out a topic then.
Yeah.
What about the United States of America? Like the 10-year-old children getting kidnapped in several states, continuously for
Oh,
7 years. Now it's just fucking,
this
it
is
is
But that
blasted, man. I mean, it is just gone skyrocketed. It is crazy. 10-year-old children getting kidnapped and changed transsexual and stuff by public
oh,
schools. It's nuts.
uh,
that
this is about Egypt.
that's not Egypt though.
Right. Well, I'm totally willing to talk about Egypt, except I'm not on the I'm on the wanting to learn side of Egypt, not the
Yeah, and
teaching of it.
I'm gonna have a talk at a later point about Egypt, and I'm trying to figure out which subject or what the direction, because if I'm just gonna talk about Egypt, you all will hear just a rambling mumbo jumbo jumping from one tiny topic to the next and back, and it will be worse than a nightmarish circus. You will
Right,
have
but
clowns.
Oh,
what subjects do you want to teach though? I mean, that's how you categorize it and everything. That's how you departmentalize it and categorize it. Is what are you most interested in teaching? Start with there. But either which way, what subjects are you most passionate about? That's what's gonna liven everybody up to really want to start your class.
Yeah. um, I'm very much into like the language, and because the language is much more than just language the way we see it
What
today.
time eras?
Yeah, I was thinking about that too, and I'm actually thinking it's not my favorite time era, but I think it's the best to start with, to go kind of back to the beginning, to give a foundation, uh, and work upwards. I'm most knowledgeable about the New Kingdom, uh, but it's also very fascinating, especially for people who don't know, like where does all these ideas come from? How did they arise, and how do we know? And also there's a extremely interesting book, let's call it. It's not a book like bound book, because they didn't have that. Um, I believe it's called the Maxims or the Teachings of Tahotep. It's the oldest book that we have. Not that it's necessarily the oldest book ever compiled, but it's the oldest one we have, and it's from ancient Egypt. It's basically partly about how to be a vizier, because he was a vizier, and he's writing this to his son and successor, and how to treat people, and it gives a fantastic, like, not picture view, but ögonblick, like a moment in time,
Mhm.
a view into a moment in time of how they interacted, what the culture was, and so on. And I think that could also be very, very interesting. And then I could also read some to you in ancient Egyptian.
So when I didn't actually hear which king name and everything, but uh, so which king and what time period? I mean, when's that start? You said the current.
Um, the Maxims of Tahotep.
Oh, okay. And
It's
then
from 2600 BCE, if I'm not misremembering. So it's fifth. Wait, that can't be right. Yeah, fifth dynasty, Old Kingdom era. Slightly, I have to double check. I have to as soon as I become the slightest bit then I want to know, because I don't want to spread false information.
Sky, would you like if she talks about the relationship between Egypt and Israel?
The relationship between Egypt and Israel. I would love to talk about that, except, yeah. Or forget I said the word except. I don't know. I have no idea. I honestly have no idea what she thinks of Israel. So.
Pretty neutral. I mean, I don't have any. I view them as any other nation on earth. Then, of course, there are issues with, like the Israel-Palestinian conflict that's been going on since mid 1900s.
Yeah, they very don't recognize Israel's right to exist. I mean, their very literal, not figurative motto is kill Israel, kill all Jews. So.
Yeah, and that's not very cool. At the same time, was it cool to just take, which wasn't the Israel, it wasn't the Jewish people who took the land from Palestine or from the Palestinians. Basically, I think it's a lesson which unfortunately I don't think anyone is going to learn, especially not in the future. Because we have seen it before with the dividing of Africa back in the day.
Mm.
The problem with coming into an area, a geographic area, and just draw up lines and tell people where they can and cannot be, and drive people from their home, and suddenly, like in the case of Africa, suddenly tribes that have been warring for ages are supposed to be friends because some stupid Westerners have come over and said, this is our piece of land, so now you are going to, no, you are one people now. No, we're not.
Pretty
I
much
don't know. You know, I was raised with by an extremely racist person who actually is a Nazi. And that has made me, like all of these issues about Israel, I don't really have a position because partly because I'm kind of tired of the subject. I've heard so much vitriol and just screaming and ranting about the issue, and I don't want to take his position, but at the same time I don't want to take the other one either, because is that just because I'm being contrarian, or now I have to do everything the other way? It's kind of a mess in my head. actually.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, don't be. It's always a mess in my
Serious?
head. Yes, it's
Oh,
always a mess in my head. It's like a porridge.
oh,
Porridge.
yeah, brother. Okay, he's gonna have it at 7:30 tonight, Eastern Standard Time. Brother Pack. He's Brother Pack.
Bird park. Bird park. Hike is hard to say. Park, park, bird.
Oh, would you ever like to meet Achilles?
I have to be nice to him then.
Oh, but Achilles said the Overlord. Thomas Paine have writings for Thomas Paine. He's just a lovable character. He's funny. I like Achilles. Scott, have you ever met Thomas Paine?
Who? Ever met who?
I'm just joking. Yeah.
Thomas? Thomas? But that whole argument was also so bad. So bad.
He's a funny guy. Yeah, he's from Greece. Do you see?
Yeah, and I think that could be an issue if we're starting to talk about ancient times.
Oh.
Okay, so this is very generalizing, but Greeks are in general, which they should be, but still proud of their heritage and their history, and they should be. But unfortunately, nowadays it tends to go into more of a history denialism. And that would be a problem. I don't know. I can speculate, but who am I to say what he thinks or not thinks? What I know is his argument about Thomas Paine was a bad argument. Also, the earth isn't flat, and Kent Hovind is not next to Jesus.
That was crazy what he said. Yeah. Okay, you see every time I hear that name, it reminds me of that rapper, Art Kelly. You ever heard of him, Skylar?
R. Kelly, yeah. Yeah, the peeing on little
R.
girls. Yeah.
Yeah. He might, when I say Achilles, that almost sounds like Art Kelly. Achilles. Thank you, Mrs. Outcast and Skylar, for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you as always.
You're welcome. Welcome. Gonna have a show at 7:30 p.m.
Awesome.
Eastern Standard Time. See you guys later.
See you. Take care. Have a nice day.
Bye, Miss Egypt.
Bye, Sky.
Guys, come on later on. Thank you. Bye, Mr. Skylar.